Chapter 76 Ling Sen, Ta Ku. Chapter 76 Ling Sen, Ta Ku. In the seven profound martial house, Ling Sen, Ta Ku, and Zhuang Guanyu were the three existences that held absolute authority. Even the several core disciples could not compare with their fame and reputation. After entering the seven profound martial house, starting from the third year, these three people had been situated in the top three ranks of the ranking stone and had maintained that until the present. There was not a single person yet who had been able to pressure them from those coveted positions. The ranking stone only showed one's rank, they did not display the score. Therefore, of these three top-tier geniuses, no one knew how many more points they had achieved over the fourth-ranked disciple. There were rumors that Zhuang Guanyu had more than 10,000 points over the fourth-place disciple, but whether these rumors were real or fake, no one knew. In brief, Ling Sen, Ta Ku, and Zhuang Guanyu were three people of immeasurably deep and profound strength. They whispered that Ling Sen, who was half a step into the fifth stage of body transformation, could compare with the strength of a martial artist at the pulse condensation period. Such a dominant and compelling person, who could they possibly pay attention to? It was impossible for it to be Zhong Kang or Liu Mingxiang. Although they were strong, but in the past 2 years they had not managed to crack into the ranking stone's top 100. They were absolutely not anyone that Ling Sen or Ta Ku would bother paying attention to. Wang Yangfeng was also unqualified. Although he had a superior fourth-grade talent, but in Ling Sen and Ta Ku's eyes, he was also an insignificant existence that hadn't even entered the top 180 for the first time. He was just pathetic. So the only youth here worth concerning over, it could only be Lin Ming. They must have come to take a look at him. During the first 10,000 killing array assessment he had participated in, he had managed to reach rank 126. Even that Zhong Guanyu was inferior to him in this regard. They came to see just who this young man was. At this moment, in the crowd, Zhong Kang and Liu Mingxiang had also arrived. But because Ling Sen and Ta Ku were here, their limelight had been completely snatched away. No one even paid attention to these two who were in the gambling match. Zhong Kang wasn't narcissistic enough to think that these two people, Ling Sen and Ta Ku, would come here to a gambling match to watch him. They were certainly here to check out Lin Ming. As Zhong Kang realized this, he felt very uncomfortable in his heart. Even if he did win, Ling Sen and Ta Ku's focus wouldn't be on him. Humph! How dare you look down on me? I will let you know that your judgment was stupid and wrong. Zhong Kang secretly clenched his fists. Liu Mingxiang also gritted his teeth. Zhong Kang, not only do we have to win, but we have to win cleanly and perfectly. In 5 moves we will step these reckless kids underneath our feet, otherwise others will really think we are worthless trash. Humph! I will leave a memento on that Lin boy's body. I will let him regret this gambling match. As he said this, Zhong Kang traced the hilt of the slender knife in hand, and his cold eyes flashed. This was also a request of Zhu Yang, not only attack his heart of martial arts, but leave him a severe wound that would hinder his future cultivation. By now, Ling Ming and Wang Yangfeng had also arrived. Today, Lin Ming came dressed in black clothes, and carried an 8-foot-long dark purple spear on his back. This 820 jin spear, penetrating rainbow, did not bend Lin Ming's back in the slightest. His posture was like the penetrating rainbow, he was standing just as straight. Although his cultivation was only at the 3rd stage of body cultivation, the thick true essence combined with his domineering manner, gave birth to a feeling among the crowd that this young man was truly unshakable. This Lin Ming, good. Ta Ku opened his mouth to say. That spear he is carrying, it looks like the shaft is made from dark purple elastic iron, just like my staff. With such a pole, the spear weight is definitely above 800 jins. The shaft contains a horrific strength. If he dares to use this weapon, then he must be very self-confident in his own strength. Ta Ku's weapon was a staff. It was a weapon which very few martial artists used. Not many of them used spears either, but you could still see them in the army. But a staff had no use in the army. Only some temples that did not speak of taking lives would use them. A staff was known as the virtuous man among soldiers. Ta Ku's staff was 860 jins, and the staff body was made from dark purple elastic iron. Two golden bands made from cloud vein wrought iron circled both tips. Although it was not a treasure, if it was used to hit a human, there would be a horrific force. Describing the power of top staffs and clubs, they were described as a hit is a wound, a touch is death. This was because a staff body contained a terrifying trembling crushing force. If they were struck they would be wounded, but if they were directly pounded, even iron armor would explode open. Therefore, for this kind of staff-like weapon, a treasure staff's might was instead inferior to one made from dark purple elastic iron. The spear was equally wonderful in certain aspects like the staff, but the style was more complicated and diverse. Ta Ku used a staff. To someone like Lin Ming who used a spear, it gave birth to warm feelings. After all, these two weapons were similarly rare. What a pity. He's up against Zhong Kang. I cannot see this Lin Ming's situation. I don't know if in the future he will soar into the skies, or if he will vanish into the masses. But right now, he is not Zhong Kang's match. Do you think that this Lin Ming can exchange several moves with Zhong Kang? Ta Ku turned to his side and asked Ling Sen. Ling Sen looked at Ta Ku and responded with a question. You've determined that Lin Ming will lose? Oh. You really think that this Lin Ming can win? Ta Ku thought that he had already given Lin Ming a high appraisal. Ignoring his talent, he could be a possible rival. But he didn't think that Ling Sen would give an even higher appraisal. The reason that Ling Sen was paying attention to Lin Ming was partly because he had achieved rank 126 on his first 10,000 killing array assessment, and partly because Lin Ming's heart of martial arts in the dream trial had managed to break his record. This was the proof that Lin Ming's heart of martial arts had already surpassed him. Ling Sen's innermost feelings and thoughts were firm and resolute like iron. He had no desires and was also just. But that didn't mean he was without flaws. His flaw was his killing heart. Ling Sen's bloodlust was too great, his deathly aura was too heavy, and it was difficult for him to eliminate the evils within his heart. Certainly, Lin Ming also had a flaw. There was not a single person in this world that did not have a flaw in their heart, so it only depended on whose flaw was smaller. Ling Sen's talent was an inferior 4th grade. In the 7 profound martial house where geniuses gathered, this talent could only be considered decent. What he actually relied on to achieve his current position at the 7 profound martial house was his formidable heart of martial arts. Now he saw his own shadow in Lin Ming, and wanted to have a look at him and see whether he could create a miracle. Ling Sen said, I'm not sure if Lin Ming will win or lose, but what I know is that when Lin Ming was in the 10,000 killing array, his cultivation was at the peak 2nd stage of body transformation. Now he is already at the 3rd stage of body transformation. Millimeter? It seems so. Unless the gap in strength was too large, a martial artist could tell another's cultivation at a glance. Naturally, Zhong Kang and Liu Mingxiang also noted Lin Ming's growth. This boy, he has such dogshit luck. He actually made a breakthrough during this time. It's because of the efficacy of the Crimson Gold Dragon Marrow Pill and the Golden Snake Scarlet Pill. If he ate these 2 miracle pills together, the drug's efficacy would slowly release into his body. It's not too strange that he would break through to the next stage, otherwise it would have been impossible to reach rank 126 on the ranking stone. Zhong Kang, you to be careful. Don't be careless and suffer a loss. Humph. You think too highly of him. He cultivates the foundation spear technique and the foundation movement technique. There is no depth at all in these skills. Even if he practiced them to the large success stage, they wouldn't have any power. Only because he has no self-confidence would he be an idiot and choose these 2 manuals. My knife skill is quick. Compared to his unwieldy spear, he won't even be able to touch the hem of my cloth. By now, the sundial's shadow was 1:45. Time was up. Chapter 77 When I need to draw it, I will draw it. Chapter 77 When I need to draw it, I will draw it. Liu Mingxiang was the first to jump on stage. He pointed his long sword at Wang Yangfeng and said with a smile, Wang Yangfeng, come up to die. Humph. Wang Yangfeng coldly snorted and fearlessly walked on stage. Today was the day that he and Liu Mingxiang's match had also been decided upon. This Wang Yangfeng has some backbone after all. Lin Ming could see that Wang Yangfeng wasn't faking his confident manner. The gap between Wang Yangfeng and Liu Mingxiang was just too wide. Even if Wang Yanfeng's talent was gifted, it was impossible for him to catch up to Liu Mingxiang in just 1 month. But confronted with even the slimmest chance of victory, he also faced this with a courageous manner. This was quite a rare and commendable feat. Wang Yangfeng drew out his own treasure sword and poured his true essence into it. The green runes of the 9 paths of truth came shimmering alive one at a time. Its brightness and solidity was many times more than when he had fought with Lin Ming. During this month, Wang Yangfeng had cultivated like a madman with nothing to lose. Although he hadn't been able to reach the peak of the 3rd stage of body transformation, his true essence viscera training had reached a much more thorough and complete degree, and he had consolidated his cultivation at the 3rd stage of body transformation. Seeing Wang Yanfeng's 9 paths of truth swordsmanship, Liu Mingxiang smiled. "Looks like you've made a little progress, but it's a pity, you're still far short of reaching me. Now die!" Liu Mingxiang shouted. He drew his sword and slashed at Wang Yangfeng. As it cut through the air, his sword turned purple-gray and began to glitter with a strange phosphorescent light. Peng peng peng! Liu Mingxiang's sword let loose 3 strikes. The treasure rank sword howled with a piercing sound as Liu Mingxiang sent his true essence flowing into it. Wang Yangfeng stepped back slightly. The symbols of the 9 paths of truth began to dazzle with light on the sword blade. With a stroke of his sword, Liu Mingxiang's sword wind was split apart and weakened. With another cut of his sword, Wang Yangfeng broke apart Liu Mingxiang's first sword wind slash. Cha. Wang Yangfeng wielded his sword as he stepped backwards. He cut down Liu Mingxiang's sword wind again and again and again. By the end of this terrible onslaught, the wind strokes had shredded his clothes to tatters, but Wang Yanfeng's step was calm, and though his true essence was rapidly fluctuating, it wasn't chaotic. "You have some decent skills, but you are far from ready." Heavenly King's crushing chakram blade. Liu Mingxiang took a step forward. The haze of true essence around his body began to glow with a rich purple light. It billowed off of him like a cloud of steam. His 3-foot-long sword began to glow with a glorious light that ran up the blade's length. True essence congealed together and formed a rapidly spinning dharmic wheel at the end of the sword point. Heavenly King's crushing chakram blade. This is a high-level martial skill from the depository. Practicing it is beyond difficult, but this Liu Mingxiang actually succeeded in doing so. Wang Yangfeng is in danger. Lin Ming narrowed his eyes as he looked at this martial skill, Heavenly King's crushing chakram. It was true essence that had formed a strange self-contained system. Just looking at it, there appeared to be no flaw, but Lin Ming had discovered that Liu Mingxiang was forcefully using this martial skill. He had only reluctantly managed to use this Heavenly King's crushing chakram. In Lin Ming's eyes, he could see that there were too many flaws in the circulation of true essence in the treasure sword. If Wang Yangfeng wanted to win, his only path was to rush forward right now and interrupt Liu Mingxiang from supplying his sword with true essence. However, Wang Yangfeng was not an inscription master and he did not know the overbearing soul tactic, and thus it was impossible for him to see the path of true essence in Liu Mingxiang's sword. At this time, Wang Yangfeng moved. Although Liu Mingxiang's aura was intimidating, Wang Yangfeng had resolved to swim against this stream. He was clear. This was his only chance. He must attack before Liu Mingxiang's dharmic wheel had condensed to its top form, and defeat his Heavenly King's crushing chakram. Wang Yangfeng brandished his sword. His target was not the Heavenly King's crushing chakram, nor was it the weak spots in the flow of true essence of Liu Mingxiang's treasure sword. Instead, the point he would strike was Liu Mingxiang's chest. Wang Yanfeng's sword infused with true essence, and it seemed as if lightning was flashing up its blade, carrying with it the crashing sound of wind and thunder. This was the martial skill Thundercloud Strike. This move was the high-grade martial skill that Wang Yangfeng had chosen at the depository. At that time, Wang Yangfeng had chosen 3 manuals at the depository: Divine Yang Power, Swan Feather Fall, and Thundercloud Strike. These 3 cultivation methods and martial skills were not simple at all. Even with Wang Yanfeng's outstanding talent, it would be impossible for him to learn them in a short period of time. Divine Yang Power was a skill used to enhance one's cultivation. It would take more than 1 night and day or even a month with this to improve one's cultivation and strength. The Swan Feather Fall was a movement technique, but it also could not increase his combat prowess immediately. Therefore Wang Yangfeng had used most of the remaining month to cultivate the Thundercloud Strike. Now, his Thundercloud Strike had finally shown some results, and he believed that with this move he would create a miracle. Naive. You've only practiced the Thundercloud Strike for 1 month, how could you even think of comparing it to my Heavenly King's crushing chakram? Liu Mingxiang shouted. The long sword that held the Heavenly King's crushing chakram slashed down. The spinning dharmic wheel fell down as if it were a black hole that could swallow all of life. Bang! The Thundercloud Strike and Heavenly King's crushing chakram smashed into each other. The intense collision of true essence became a ballooning force of air pressure, as if it were the epicenter of a tide that was rushing outwards. In the air, lightning flashed and the sound of thunder drowned out all noise. Wang Yangfeng and Liu Mingxiang were both tossed backwards, flying upside down. Liu Mingxiang cartwheeled several times in the air before he finally managed to stab his sword into the ground and stabilize himself. Blood roiled in his chest, almost sending him tumbling. He was almost seriously injured in that last collision. However, Wang Yanfeng's situation was miserable. His body was tossed backwards like a rag doll for several dozen feet before he hazardously slammed into a big tree. His leg was stained crimson from an injury. He opened his mouth and coughed up blood. Wang Yangfeng lost. Predictable. But it's already very impressive that he could force Liu Mingxiang to this degree. How can a new disciple beat an old disciple? Isn't everyone here a talent? We have stayed here at the 7 Profound Martial House for several years. If we lose to a new disciple, then the years that we spent here cultivating are all useless. This Lin Ming will also absolutely lose. These newbies, we don't beat them around and they think that they can ride on our head. An old disciple of the Earth Hall said with disdain as he curled his lips. Wang Yangfeng supported himself with his sword as he fell down on one knee. He wiped away the blood on his lips with his left hand. He coldly stared at Liu Mingxiang, and with a wave of his arm, threw 5 true essence stones at him. What you took from my hand today, I will demand double in the future. Wang Yangfeng fiercely spat out these words. Each word was heard by all as it echoed on every surface. He turned and propped himself up with his sword, and dragging his broken leg, left step by step. Lin Ming gazed at Wang Yangfeng as he left. He couldn't help but feel a sense of admiration towards him. Wang Yangfeng just had horrible luck. Ever since he entered the 7 Profound Martial House, he had suffered setbacks again and again, and was repeatedly frustrated and defeated. Arrogant geniuses had their breaking point, and would find it impossible to recover from all these disasters. But this Wang Yangfeng had persevered through all this. It really was worthy of admiration. Lin Ming, come up, it's your turn. You are going to share the same fate as that loser. After Liu Mingxiang had left, Zhong Kang stepped onto the stage. Zhong Kang's ranking stone rank was 103. His strength was most likely far superior to Liu Mingxiang. Lin Ming carried penetrating rainbow strapped to his back onto the stage and stood opposite to Zhong Kang. The match between Wang Yangfeng and Liu Mingxiang was only the appetizer. This match between Lin Ming and Zhong Kang was the main play that most of the people present had come to see. Among these people, the new disciples naturally hoped that Lin Ming would use everything he had to win. Even if he lost, he couldn't lose too horribly. But the old disciples wished that Zhong Kang would win with an overwhelming superior victory, and teach these new disciples who believed themselves to be infallible, the gap between the new and the old. Seeing Lin Ming come on stage, Ling Sen and Ta Ku immediately stood at attention. The reason why Lin Ming had reached rank 126 on the ranking stone would immediately become clear. Before the match officially begun, Zhong Kang took out a slender, thin saber. The handle of the saber didn't have a hilt guard. The saber blade was directly linked to the hilt. The saber blade was 2 feet and 8 inches long, and no wider than 3 inches. The blade edge was thin like paper, and it could be seen with a single glance that this saber was to be wielded at the extreme limits of speed. Without a doubt, this saber was a treasure. In the 7 Profound Martial House, if a disciple was in the top 100 ranks, even if they were not part of an aristocratic family, they could easily be recruited into a major power and receive certain perks. To them, giving away a treasure was simply nothing. Draw your spear, Lin Ming. I want to take a good look at exactly how well you've practiced the foundation spear technique. Have you reached small success? Such a simple cultivation method, 1 month should be enough to reach small success. Zhong Kang smiled sardonically. Let alone small success of the foundation spear technique, it would be no threat to him even if it were perfect. Since Ling Sen and Ta Ku paid so much attention to Lin Ming, then he would jump over Lin Ming by maliciously stepping him underneath his foot. Zhong Kang let his true essence flow into his slender saber. He saw Lin Ming standing still and his brow wrinkled. Are you going to draw your weapon? Lin Ming slowly responded, when I need to draw it, I will draw it. What did you say? Zhong Kang's heart burned with rage. To think that as a superior disciple of the Earth Hall, he was actually looked down upon by a new disciple of the martial house. Moreover, this Lin Ming's strength was less than his. He simply didn't know what it meant to die. You will draw it when you need to draw it. Good. Good. Very good. Today I will have a very good luck and see if you even have the chance to draw your spear. Chapter 78, Empty Hand Meets the Naked Blade. Chapter 78, Empty Hand Meets the Naked Blade. This Lin Ming, he's too crazy. He's facing Zhong Kang and not immediately bringing out his weapon. Zhong Kang's saber is famous for its speed, and Lin Ming's weapon is actually a heavy spear. That kind of weapon is originally slow, and he's also carrying it on his back. I bet he will be too dazzled by Zhong Kang's cutting force to even respond. He might lose without even having the opportunity to draw out his weapon. Ta Ku also quietly shook his head. This Lin Ming is too careless. Does he want to use his empty hand to meet the naked blade? Zhong Kang's saber is a treasure that can slice apart hairs. After he pours his true essence into it, it will be able to cut through iron like mud. Even if Lin Ming were at the large success of bone forging, it would be impossible to receive it with his bare hand. Ling Sen silently looked at Lin Ming. Although he didn't understand Lin Ming's reasons, but he knew, with Lin Ming's heart of martial arts, he wouldn't be someone who was arrogant and underestimated his opponent. He must have some idea of what he was doing. He would see what was happening soon enough. Since you want to die so much, let me help you. Zhong Kang fiendishly grinned. From his still condition, he suddenly and violently moved. His body on the martial stage turned into a black phantom, and the sounds of ta-ta-ta footsteps could be heard. It was like pouring rain hitting a lotus leaf. This was fast to the extreme. This was the top movement technique, 7-star drifting cloud. Zing. Suddenly, the chilling sound of a blade vibration was heard ringing in the air. Zhong Kang's saber rushed out from a cunning angle straight upwards from the bottom of Lin Ming's ribs. The saber wasn't using any martial skill, however it was still a thin, narrow, treasure saber that Zhong Kang had poured his thick true essence into. The speed was too extreme, almost to the point of disbelief. This was truly an impeccable, irresistible saber. Even a martial artist skilled in movement would not be able to dodge this blade faster than the knife. Even a light weapons master would find it difficult to block Zhong Kang's knife that attacked from such a cunning angle at the armpit's side. Much less with Lin Ming's movement abilities, which were only from the foundation movement technique. His spear was also insufficient in terms of speed, and this spear was actually strapped onto his back. How could he dodge this? Ling Sen's pupils had dilated. His full concentration was completely on Zhong Kang's saber. He could not predict what would happen next. But at this moment, Lin Ming suddenly stretched out his right hand and reached out to that slender saber with his palm. Seeing this, Ta Ku's eyes immediately widened like a full moon. This Lin Ming was too insane. Hand against knife. Empty hand meets the naked blade. That blade was a treasure saber that had true essence poured into it. Did this Lin Ming not want his hand anymore? The corners of Zhong Kang's mouth twitched. He grinned like a demon. Using a hand to block. Haha, if I do not cut off your hand, then my 12 years of saber practice are all in vain. In that split second, no one should have been able to respond in time. But Lin Ming's palm had already touched Zhong Kang's saber. In that moment, the countless tiny units in Lin Ming's body breathed in a complete, consistent rhythm. True essence resonated as the exhalation and inhalation became one. This true essence was like a gushing tide. True essence vibration. This was strength training's flow like silk. For an instant, that intense true essence vibration was transmitted onto that slender saber. The saber unexpectedly began to violently tremble. At that moment, Zhong Kang's true essence was washed out of the blade and replaced with Lin Ming's true essence. Zhong Kang's grin suddenly froze. He only felt his hand go numb, he almost couldn't hold the saber. What? This turn of events was too sudden. Before he could figure out what was happening, Lin Ming's fist had already punched out. The fist directly impacted towards Zhong Kang's chest. Although this fist seemed ordinary, it was actually filled with vibrating true essence, and was the so-called body-tearing bone-shattering fist. If this fist made solid contact, at best Zhong Kang would only be left with half a life. Zhong Kang had been in the army for many years. The long time that he had spent killing and slaughtering on the battlefield had formed a natural intuition towards danger. Facing Lin Ming's fist, Zhong Kang's instinct told him that this fist was an inconceivable danger. He immediately moved his feet and fiercely used the large success of 7-star drifting cloud. Zhong Kang's body suddenly and violently drew back and avoided that danger hidden within Lin Ming's fist. But although he had managed to dodge the fist, Zhong Kang had been scratched by the fist wind. With just the little fist wind touching his body, Zhong Kang felt as if his heart jumped, his lungs shrank, and his stomach was affected and moved by some strange frequency. It made the blood in his body violently surge and upwell, and he wanted to spit blood. What is happening? Zhong Kang was frightened because of the reversal of blood in his body, and he staggered a little before almost stumbling onto the ground. He took a few steps back, and only by using his saber could he support himself to stand. Seeing this exchange, the audience could only foolishly look on. Just what had happened in that split second a moment ago? Lin Ming's empty hand had blocked Zhong Kang's saber, then a punch had shot out, and with only the fist wind, Zhong Kang was forced back a few steps and almost collapsed on the floor. The old disciple of the Earth Hall subconsciously rubbed his eyes. He almost thought that he was going blind. Heavens! Did I see this correctly? Is Lin Ming really a human? Are his arms and legs made from iron? Is he invulnerable? How could an empty hand meet the naked blade? Zhong Kang dodged that punch. How was he forced back several steps? How is it possible? Lin Ming was only rank 126 on the ranking stone 1 month ago. In this short time, how could he become so fierce? No kidding. When he had entered the 7 profound martial house, he was not much stronger than Wang Yangfeng, but several days later at the 10,000 killing array ranking war, Wang Yangfeng only got to around rank 170, but Lin Ming was rank 126. As soon as these words spread, there was nothing but quiet. Everyone felt a foreboding chill in their hearts. This speed of improvement was simply too horrifyingly monstrous. Before, the old disciple of the Earth Hall had looked down on Lin Ming for studying the foundation spear technique and foundation movement technique. He still did not dare to believe what had happened a moment ago. He continued muttering under his breath, "It's not right, something's wrong. What he cultivates is the foundation spear technique. This is impossible." "Big brother, did you clearly see that fist just now?" Ta Ku asked Ling Sen, who was standing on his side. His face had an imposing expression. Ling Sen wrinkled his eyebrow. "I didn't clearly see." Lin Ming's hand that touched that saber must have some profound and abstruse mystery inside. But it wasn't so exaggerated. The palm touched the saber body but not the blade edge, therefore his palm was uninjured. But this Lin Ming is truly too bold. With such a fast saber, he still dared to do that. If something went wrong, then he would have lost his hand. Ta Ku said, "Even if it's just the flat part of the blade, with just a palm, the blade edge would definitely hurt the hand if he tried to grab it, not to mention that Zhong Kang's saber was infused with true essence. It can cut iron like mud." This Lin Ming dared to do this, he must have absolute confidence in himself. No wonder Lin Ming said he would only draw his spear when he needed to. He simply believed that Zhong Kang was not worthy of his spear. As Ta Ku said this, he could feel his heart tremble. When he had first arrived at the 7 profound martial house, with only a month of time, there was no way that he could challenge disciples who were rank 100 on the ranking stone. Lin Ming's palm had been just like Ling Sen had said. He did not touch the saber's edge. Lin Ming's strikes had always been accurate and precise. It was only with the support of strength training's flow like silk and protection from the vibration of true essence that Lin Ming had dared to use his hand to block the saber. By now, Zhong Kang had already moved several dozen feet away from Lin Ming. There was already a faint horror and alarm that was creeping into his eyes. That palm and fist that Lin Ming had displayed a moment ago had left an unfathomably deep feeling in his heart. Zhong Kang's advantage was in close-quarters combat. To deal with a weapon like a long spear, close-quarters combat was the best way to win. But now he didn't even have a smidgen of confidence to face Lin Ming's fist and palm. Clenching his teeth, Zhong Kang gripped his saber hilt with both hands. Lin Ming, you truly gave me a good surprise. But don't think you'll win, you will meet my strongest blow. Even if he could not fight in close-range combat, Zhong Kang also had a martial skill. Chapter 79, Flood Dragon Goes to Sea. Chapter 79, Flood Dragon Goes to Sea. Even if he could not fight in close-quarters combat, Zhong Kang also had a martial skill. With a shout, Zhong Kang's aura suddenly erupted. True essence flooded into the slender saber, and that dazzlingly bright saber began to be covered with a dark red sheen the color of blood. It's the sunset cut. This Zhong Kang actually managed to cultivate this high-grade saber martial skill. The entire audience's eyes were wide with awe. This match that should have been an easy victory for Zhong Kang had turned into a fierce struggle between two evenly matched opponents. Now even with Zhong Kang utilizing the sunset cut, no one present thought that Lin Ming would lose. Zhong Kang lifted that slender saber above his head. A burst of light the color of fresh blood surged from Zhong Kang's saber. Zhong Kang's surroundings had been illuminated by a deep red brilliance that converged together into a blooming sunset glow. This phantasmal image continuously streamed into Zhong Kang's body. Seeing this, Lin Ming slowly drew the spear that he had carried on his back. He had crossed the threshold of strength training's flow like silk that allowed him to let his empty palm meet a naked blade, but he hadn't reached the level of empty palm meeting martial skill. He held the spear with one hand, his forearm parallel to the spear shaft, and his elbow pressing against the spear end. This 820 Jin penetrating rainbow that was 8 feet 8 inches long was kept steadily horizontal. The spear stood motionless, as if he were a general cast in iron. This was a basic starting hand position of the foundation spear technique. Iron bridge blocks the river. Lin Ming brought out his spear. This is a starting hand position of the foundation spear technique. Heavens! It really is the foundation spear technique. This Lin Ming wants to use the foundation spear technique to resist the sunset cut? He's too crazy. Everyone's eyes widened without exception for fear of missing a single detail of this fight. If Lin Ming had been using a top-tier martial skill, they would not have anticipated this so much. Foundation spear technique to sunset cut. What will the result be? From this point on, none of them dared look down any longer at Lin Ming's foundation spear technique. Because of Lin Ming's domineering aura, this set of foundations that were the most simple spear skills had become deep and inscrutable as well. The foundation spear technique was not some profound high-grade cultivation method. In the entirety of spear arts, it was only the most basic foundation for spear moves. It was because this most basic foundation had been combined with Lin Ming's terrifying 4,200 Jin strength, and with the thick true essence from the true primal chaos formula, and the boundary of strength training's flow like silk, that the power of this spear had reached such an intensely horrifying level. Zhong Kang clenched his teeth. The muscles of his face had been complete twisted and made him unrecognizable. With his current strength, he barely managed to utilize this sunset cut. This was pushing his limits. Lin Ming, go die. Zhong Kang gave a loud shot and the slender saber in his hand released an inexhaustible rose-red cloud. The air around him began to resound with deep rolling sound as if a fierce current were rushing back and forth. The wind of this red saber formed a billowing red cloud that seemed as if it would blot out the sky. Some of the nearby disciples of the human hall had weak cultivation, and their faces discolored as they could not withstand the berserk pressure of this strike. Too strong. These disciples of the human hall gushed with a feeling that they had no way to resist this strike. If they stood in front of this blow, It was possible that just the pressure and aura of the rose-red cloud would overwhelm and crush them. Turbulent red energy surged forwards like an endless raging sea. In contrast, Lin Ming's iron bridge blocks the river was simple and unsophisticated. There was not even a half point of gaudiness to it. He was as strong as he was. Iron bridge blocks the river. Since you want to see my foundation spear technique, that's good. I've only practiced one move of the spear arts. Flood Dragon goes to sea. Lin Ming shouted and suddenly thrusted out the penetrating rainbow. This so-called Flood Dragon goes to sea was in truth simply a plain straight thrust. The long spear had many styles. It could chop, dance, point, circle, sweep, and many other such moves. But the most basic was the thrust. The thrust was the spear's soul. A 820 Jin heavy spear, a single thrust had the potential to crack open a mountain. An 8-foot spear, breaking through all. With just a simple straight thrust, Lin Ming's aura skyrocketed. Turbulent mountain rivers appeared around him and converged from all directions. They melted together and flowed into Lin Ming's body. Lin Ming had practiced this Flood Dragon goes to sea less than 1,000 times. However, he had done so underneath a waterfall. This Lin Ming had practiced day after day until he had reached the stage where his spear was completely steady. Zhong Kang's sunset cut blotted out the skies above, just as if it were a turbulent and mighty current flowing in the air. But no matter how raging the current was, it could not match up to a waterfall created in an array that was set up by a Xiantian master. How could this possibly shake Lin Ming's spear? The red clouds that were spread all over the sky were melting as if they were clouds of snow. Lin Ming's spear had a majestic and boundless aura, breaking through all. The slender saber relied on speed to win. No matter how, if it competed with a spear, it would be defeated without a doubt. Bang! The red clouds dissolved. Zhong Kang spat a mouthful of blood and flew backwards. He hit the ground with a cruel thud. It couldn't be seen whether he was alive or dead. Lin Ming withdrew his spear. He stood at the center of the stage. At this moment, he was similarly straight just like his spear, the penetrating rainbow, with a sharp and unshakable aura. This is too terrifying. This Lin Ming really won. Foundation spear technique. Foundation spear technique has that much power behind it. Lin Ming really used the foundation spear technique just now? I want to learn it too. You want to learn it? You really think the foundation spear technique is really so fierce? This is just because that Lin Ming is way too strong, so anything he does will be strong. The move he just used was the foundation spear technique's Flood Dragon goes to sea, but it is plainly just a straight thrust. If you want, you can enroll in the army. The soldiers practice this every day and I've never seen a soldier use it in such a kick-ass way. This straight thrust is nothing fancy at all, but under Lin Ming, this simple move can break the sunset cut. Someone who just entered the Viscera training stage against someone who was a half step into the altering muscle stage, and Lin Ming won. It's not strange to defeat someone a stage ahead, but what is scary is that the one he beat is Zhong Kang. Zhong Kang is also an extreme talent that can beat those a stage ahead. If Zhong Kang left the martial house, it wouldn't be impossible for him to defeat someone at the peak of the altering muscle stage. Have you noticed that from when Lin Ming came on stage to when he won, he hasn't moved a single step? It wasn't known who said this, but the audience looked to where Lin Ming stood. Sure enough, after Lin Ming came on stage, he had used a palm, a fist, and a spear thrust. But he had not moved a single step. Realizing this, even the disciples of the heavenly abode felt a chill crawl down their spines. Although Lin Ming's ranking was far away, sooner or later he would enter the heavenly abode. With such a future rival pursuing them from behind, it made them all feel nervous and uneasy. Liu Mingxiang faced Lin Ming and felt his throat twitch as he took a dry gulp. He was completely scared, and his one consolation was that at the start of all this, Zhu Yang had looked for Zhong Kang, and not him. Otherwise, the one lying motionless on the ground would be him. He felt Zhong Kang's pulse and found that he was alive and his life wasn't threatened. However, his whole body was covered in severe injuries and several bone fractures. Even if he had top medical treatment, not to mention any permanent damage, he would still be bedbound for over half a month. Lin Ming was not a murderer. In the 7 profound martial house, It was strictly prohibited to kill the opposite party in a gambling match. As for the heavy injuries from the collision, there was some suspicion, but Liu Mingxiang did not dare to investigate. In a panic, he carried the unconscious Zhong Kang on his back and prepared to leave. But at this moment, Lin Ming said, "True essence stones? 20 of them." Chapter 80, Rudimentary Martial Intent. Chapter 80, Rudimentary Martial Intent. Initially, when Lin Ming and Zhong Kang had made their gambling match, Zhong Kang had bragged, and said that if he lost he would pay 20 true essence stones. Thinking back on this really made Liu Mingxiang's heart cry. Zhong Kang didn't have 20 true essence stones on him. Liu Mingxiang hadn't brought such a large number of true essences stones here either. He gently placed Zhong Kang down and rifled through his clothes, and gathered up what they both had, but was still missing 5. So he turned and borrowed from the people around and finally scrounged up 20. After giving them to Lin Ming, Liu Mingxiang placed Zhong Kang back on his back and left as if he were running away. Lin Ming won, and from beginning to end, from when he used his palm to this spear move, he only used his left foot to tread the ground. His right foot hadn't moved. Truly it is a worthy reputation of the iron bridge blocks the river, it is unshakable. Ta Ku felt the long staff on his back, and his eyes flashed with a hint fighting spirit. Although Lin Ming was still incapable of being his match right now, perhaps that time where he could stand as his equal wasn't too far off in the future. Ling Sen said, "Zhong Guanyu will regret not coming to see this match. After this battle, Lin Ming will draw high-level attention across the Sky Fortune Kingdom to himself in the martial house. If we wait for him to grow up, he will really be a powerful rival. If we do not diligently train, perhaps this young junior apprentice will crawl up past our heads. It's only interesting if there's competition. Competition is always competing with you, I just don't have the confidence. But this Lin Ming, he will be perfect to be my match. It is true that he will become a rival of mine in the future. Big brother, I find it strange, how could Lin Ming progress so quickly? In the last 10,000 killing array assessment he reached rank 126, which should have been because he ate the Crimson Gold Dragon Marrow Pill and the Golden Snake Scarlet Pill and digested their efficacy. But this time, how could his strength rise so dramatically? Ling Sen responded, "Everyone's encounters of good or bad fortune are not clear. If I'm not guessing wrong, this Lin Ming should have comprehended a special cultivation state, a martial intent similar to my Ashura. Also, this Lin Ming's heart of martial arts is above mine. It's nothing unusual if he had managed to comprehend a martial intent like my Ashura." Ta Ku's complexion changed and exhaled a puff of cold air. His is stronger than Big Brother's Ashura? Ling Sen's talent was only an inferior 4th grade. In the 7 profound martial house, there existed many other geniuses whose martial talent surpassed him, especially in Ling Sen's generation, which was truly an astonishing one that brimmed with natural talent. For instance, there was Ta Ku, whose talent was just shy of 5th grade, or Zhong Guanyu, who was a true 5th grade talent. However, regardless of whether it was Ta Ku or Zhong Guanyu, they had been firmly pressed down by Ling Sen. Most people, including Lin Ming, had assumed that Ling Sen had some sort of fortuitous encounter, or that he had eaten some sort of precious raw material, but that was not the truth. The truth was, Ling Sen had comprehended Ashura. Ashura was a particular and unique cultivation state. When a martial artist cultivated, sometimes they would enter into some wonderful and marvelous state, which could be considered a certain type of ideal martial condition, the most famous of which was the sudden enlightenment. This state was widely recorded in the ancient texts. Legends said that 3 millennia ago, there was once a great elder who had sat underneath a bodhi tree and meditated for 7 days and 7 nights. When he awakened, he had shattered several fetters of martial arts and had become an immortal Buddha, piercing the martial void. Though the legends were recorded in the ancient texts, no one knew whether they were true or false. But in reality, there were martial artists that were truly able to enter certain states of cultivation. Although this state didn't have something so exaggerated as sudden enlightenment, it could greatly increase the cultivation speed of a martial artist. The martial artists that had comprehended these states often had a heart of martial arts that were a cut above everyone else. Depending on a person's heart of martial arts, or some elusive quality of their soul, these states of cultivation would have different conditions. These conditions could only be comprehended as ideas, they could not be expressed. Many shockingly talented individuals, such as Qin Xingxuan, have not managed to comprehend such a particular state of being. But Lin Ming, when he had been submerged in the icy pond waterfall, he had touched upon this fleeting state of cultivation. His true essence had revolved of his own will and had taken a root in his body according to its most basic instincts. This path of circulation was close to being perfect and was several times faster than Lin Ming's own speed. While cultivating under this condition, Lin Ming had achieved the perfect first layer of the true primal chaos formula. Of course, although Lin Ming had stumbled onto this state, it was because of his formidable heart of martial arts. But, not every martial artist who had an outstanding heart of martial arts could comprehend a martial intent. Before now, the only person in the 7 profound martial house who had comprehended a martial intent had been Ling Sen. His martial intent was Ashura. Once he had entered the state of Ashura, Ling Sen's consciousness would awaken to the Ashura battlefield. There, he would experience countless life and death battles. In these battles, he would die many times, and he would also be reborn many times. What was most fearful was that Ling Sen's comprehensive instinct, which he learned from being on the edge of life and death, would be integrated into his soul. A martial artist could obtain unimaginable advantages in every life or death battle. Their cultivation progress would truly be quickened. However, there weren't any martial artists that could do it like Ling Sen, because no one could guarantee whether or not they would live or die in the next moment. Therefore Ling Sen had a truly substantial murderous aura. Regardless of whether it was battle talent or battle instinct, he was far above other martial artists at the same level of cultivation. In the entire Sky Fortune Kingdom, Ling Sen was invincible within those of his level, to the point that his real combat strength approached a martial artist at the pulse condensation period. Certainly, such a thick murderous aura had advantages that were accompanied by disadvantages. Although this aura had taken Ling Sen's combat prowess to a formidable new degree, it had also crushed his feelings and gradually enabled him to become a cold-blooded killing machine. That was why in the dream trial he had broken through all the trials in the blink of an eye, except the one that tested the evils in his heart. To break through that, Ling Sen had used most of an incense stick of time, and this was because the killing nature of his heart was too heavy. It was because Ling Sen's Ashura martial intent was so heaven-defying, that when Ling Sen had said that Lin Ming's own cultivation state might even surpass his own Ashura, that Ta Ku was surprised. Don't be so dramatic. Even if it is a person whose heart of martial arts was superior to everyone else, only a chosen few can comprehend martial intent. Would this Lin Ming, who is only a 15-year-old boy, be able to already comprehend something so fierce like Big Brother's cultivation state? Ling Sen said, "This is the only explanation. Lin Ming's heart of martial arts is much stronger than mine, so his comprehension of martial intent might also be stronger than mine. Lin Ming's progress this month was too amazingly quick. I think it is due to this special cultivation state. When just understanding this cultivation state, his power should increase by leaps and bounds, but it will stabilize and gradually slow down. So that's how it is. This Lin Ming is more and more interesting. He's worth waiting for to grow up. I will certainly fight with him then." As Ta Ku said this, he subconsciously cracked his knuckles together. Ling Sen said, "In just several days it will be time for the next assessment of the 10,000 killing array. This Lin Ming will definitely participate. Want to take a look?" "Good idea. Always cultivating is just too boring. Let's take a look at this Lin Ming and see how high he'll be able to go." The 7 profound martial house opened the 10,000 killing array every month. The last time Lin Ming had participated was 27 days ago. Lin Ming would naturally participate in this month's 10,000 killing array assessment. A higher ranking meant more resources. At first, just some time in the icy pond waterfall had benefited Lin Ming greatly. With 6 other major arrays, what sort of astonishing advantages would they have to practice in them? Lin Ming was looking forwards to seeing. In particular, Hong Shi had once recommended that he not enter Thunder Valley, so there should be something special there. Lin Ming did not know yet, but what had helped him break through to the true primal chaos formula's perfect first layer was exactly that cultivation state known as martial intent, which Ling Sen had said was in its formative stage. Sky Fortune City, in a top-class pavilion. First Taste Pavilion was a restaurant that shared the honor of being one of the top dining establishments, along with the Great Clarity Pavilion. At this time, in an elegantly furnished room on the second floor, Zhu Yang was eating lunch, and opposite of him, wearing a snow-white dress, was Lan Yunyu. Lan Yunyu ate quietly. The silence in the room created a stiffening and awkward atmosphere. Zhu Yang took a sip of soup made from the flesh of a flood dragon. He set the small, gold-threaded bowl onto the table and took up a snow silk napkin to wipe his mouth. He suddenly asked, "What are you thinking?" "Nothing. I'm not thinking of anything." Lan Yunyu hurriedly shook her head. In front of Zhu Yang, she felt as if some invisible pressure was bearing down on her. Between the two of them, it didn't seem as if they were lovers, but instead an emperor and his concubine. In the presence of the emperor, a concubine would always be cautious and scared. Lan Yangyu clearly knew that even if Zhu Yang liked her, he could also leave her. If he wanted to, there would be any number of women rushing at his doorstep and he could pick any one of them. This was the disparity in their positions brought about by the difference in their strength and status. Zhu Yang smiled, and although he seemed friendly, there was actually a deep cold hidden in his eyes. He knew what Lan Yunyu was thinking about. Today was the day of the gambling match between Zhong Kang and Lin Ming. It was impossible that Lan Yunyu didn't know. She was worried that Lin Ming would be severely wounded, and in fact, Zhu Yang really had looked at what Zhong Kang could do in the context of the rules. Zhong Kang would leave behind a debilitating mark on Lin Ming's body. This was the best way to hinder his future martial arts cultivation. Of course, this was just the beginning. He would deal with Lin Ming one step at a time. He would destroy his martial arts cultivation, and then let him spend the rest of his life as an invalid. Zhu Yang fiddled with a snow-white porcelain spoon in the bird's nest soup before him as he waited for Zhong Kang to transmit some good news to him. However, at that time, a sound-transmitting talisman hadn't yet been lit. Chapter 81, Strength Trainings Flow Like Silk. Chapter 81, Strength Trainings Flow Like Silk. Zhu Yang fiddled with a snow-white porcelain spoon in the bird's nest soup before him as he waited for Zhong Kang to transmit some good news to him. However, at this time, a sound-transmitting talisman hadn't yet been lit. As lunch was winding down, there was a knock on the door. "Come in," Zhu Yang said. The door slowly opened, and Zhu Yang's old servant respectfully walked over. This old servant was at the viscera training stage. He bent over to whisper into Zhu Yang's ear. As Zhu Yang heard, his complexion abruptly changed. Peng! The small gold-threaded bowl in his hand was broken in half by him. "What did you say?" Lan Yunyu jumped in fear, but the old servant was used to these reactions. The old servant took half a step back and said once more, "Young master, Zhong Kang was defeated by Lin Ming in 3 moves. He was severely wounded to the point of spitting blood, and still remains unconscious." With such an unexpected result, Zhu Yang was startled and angry, but Lan Yunyu was completely and utterly shocked. Lin Ming actually won? And he defeated Zhong Kang in 3 moves? He was injured bad enough to make him spit blood? How could this be? She had originally been worrying that Zhong Kang would be too cruel with his hand, and did not think that the results would be so bizarre. Zhu Yang seemed somber and terrifying. Although he had already given Lin Ming a high appraisal, he didn't that in just 1 month after coming to the martial house, Lin Ming would be able to defeat Zhong Kang, who was ranked around 100 on the ranking stone. If he gave him more time, would this Lin Ming even climb over his own head? Before now, Zhu Yang had only treated this Lin Ming as an amusing pastime, a cute little prey that he could tease if he were bored. Lin Ming's talent was inferior, his strength was inferior, and even his family background was inferior. If he had just eaten some valuable and rare material or had some fortuitous encounter, he wouldn't have thought for a second that Lin Ming could threaten him. Even when it came to coping with Lin Ming, he didn't want to lower himself to personally doing it, so he had set up traps for him and placed obstacles in his path. None of them had stopped him, and right now, Zhu Yang had a deep, foreboding sense of crisis. Lin Ming's growth was just too quick. It was unimaginably fast. 4 months ago, he was only at the first stage of body transformation, a pathetic little martial artist who was worrying about how to obtain medicine to cure his wounds. But the next time they had met, he was already the first-place candidate of the entrance exam. Even this did not cause Zhu Yang any concern, but what he did not expect was that in just the span of 1 month, he had defeated Zhong Kang. This Lin Ming absolutely had a problem. There was no mistaking his talent. He was undoubtedly a medium third-grade martial talent. To progress so quickly in such a short time, what kind of valuable material could he have eaten? Or, has he been relying on his heart of martial arts, and actually managed to comprehend a special state of cultivation? If it was the former, then it wasn't anything to fear. But if it was the latter? Thinking of this, Zhu Yang subconsciously clenched his fists, and his knuckles cracked. His heart flowed with a strong sense of unease. This Lin Ming would likely become the enemy of his entire life. I must kill him before he grows any further. But, if he stays in the 7 Profound Martial House, even if I use my aunt's influence, there's nothing I can do. How should I handle this? At the 7 Profound Martial House's back mountains, a round and bright moon was hanging in the sky as stars twinkled around it. It was a late autumn night, and the sky was a unique, limped dark blue. It gave one a clear and lofty feeling as they gazed at the wonders of nature. Under the luminescent curtain of night, Lin Ming stood on a cold rock. He held a spear in one hand, and his forearm was parallel with the shaft. His elbow pressed into the spear end, and the long spear was extending horizontally from his body. This was the basic stance of the foundation spear technique. Iron bridge blocks the river. However, this time the spear shaft wasn't straight, but slightly curved downwards as it trembled lightly. Lin Ming had hung a 100 jin boulder onto the end of the spear point, and it was the stone that was bending down the long spear. Although the boulder was only 100 jins, because it hung on the tip of the spear, the true weight of it was 10 times that. In addition to the weight of penetrating rainbow, the total amount that hung on Lin Ming's arm was above 4,000 jins. With Lin Ming's early third stage of body transformation, supporting this weight of over 4,000 jins as it was pulled down by gravity was already his limit. As Lin Ming held the spear in his right hand, his left hand was grasping onto a true essence stone. His eyes were closed shut as he circulated its true essence throughout his entire body. This pure true essence flowed continuously into his body where it subtly transformed Lin Ming's circulation system. Martial artists usually cultivated the body, rather than their true essence. True essence was water, and the body was a reservoir. Martial artists would constantly cultivate by forging their bodies to build up their strength. Their true essence capacity would then become increasingly large. Therefore, no matter how one consumed true essence, even if it was to the very last drop, it would not affect cultivation. As long as they cultivated for 1 or 2 days, their body would be restored to peak condition. However, as for the body, once the body suffers damage, then there would even be the possibility that their martial arts cultivation would drop an entire stage. If strength training and flesh training stage martial artists' bodies were like small water puddles, then viscera training stage would be comparable to a pond. Altering muscle and bone forging would be like a lake, and after that would be the pulse condensation period, where the meridians would condense, and true essence circulation would accelerate, and the body would be like roiling rivers and raging streams. If all the true essence of the body gathered together and flowed at the same time, it would turn into a vast ocean. This would be the Hutian and Xiantian stages. With the true essence stone's true essence transforming the body, it was just like a reservoir that had water forcefully poured into it. This would broaden and expand the reservoir. This sort of cultivation method had far less side effects than using pills, but the difference was that it was much slower, and the requirement of resources was much higher. In 2 days, Lin Ming had already used 3 true essence stones. As Lin Ming's cultivation grew, the rate at which he would consume true essence stones would only become faster and faster, and it was possible that not even the 7 Profound Martial House could sufficiently supply enough. Even if I was a heavenly abode disciple like Ling Sen or Ta Ku, who are the top-ranked, I might still not have enough true essence stones to cultivate. According to the regulations of the Martial House, new disciples of the 7 Profound Martial House would receive true essence stones according to their results on the entrance exam. Afterwards it would depend on one's rank on the ranking stone. If one's rank was lower than 150, one could receive 1 true essence stone each month. Rank 120 to 150 would receive 2 true essence stones per month. Rank 100 to 120, 3 essence stones per month, and rank 72 to 100, 4 true essence stones per month. Even at the rank of Lingsen and Ta-Ku, they would only receive a dozen or so every month. Although it was many more than an ordinary disciple, if one wanted to depend on true essence stones to cultivate, they would not have enough for daily use. How many true essence stones would a core disciple like Qin Xingxuan receive per month? How many can a true disciple of the 7 profound valleys receive? To the common folk of the Sky Fortune Kingdom, a large sect such as the 7 profound valleys was simply like a distant mirage, and equally as elusive. This distance from Sky Fortune Kingdom to the 7 profound valleys was said to be 100,000 miles. With such a vast distance between them, even if one rode a top-quality horse day in and day out, and swapped horses at every location, it would still take more than half a year of time to cover. To the common folk who depended on their feet to travel the wide world, a distance of 100,000 miles was enough for them to walk an entire life. Shaking his head, Lin Ming no longer thought about such remote matters. He had to concentrate on his immediate concern, the next 10,000 killing array assessment. Lin Minute would certainly participate and strive for a good result. The higher he was, the more resources he could attain. There were only 3 days left until the ranking war would begin. To sharply increase his strength in these next 3 days was unrealistic, unless Lin Ming ate the Crimson Gold Dragon Marrow Pill. If Lin Ming wasn't planning on using the medicinal inscription symbol to increase the effects of the Crimson Gold Dragon Marrow Pill, then he would have already eaten it. But if the medicinal inscription symbol were placed on, the Crimson Gold Dragon Marrow Pill's efficacy would multiply several times over. Lin Ming had taken the Golden Snake Scarlet Pill and the efficacy hadn't been fully absorbed and wasn't completely purified yet. If he ate the Crimson Gold Dragon Marrow Pill during this time, then a light consequence would be that the drug efficacy would be wasted. A heavy consequence would be that the true essence he refined would not be pure, and it would cause the foundation of his cultivation to destabilize. It wasn't worth such a dangerous risk just for a ranking assessment. He intended to use the few days he had left to consolidate the realm of strength training's flow like silk. He continued to practice his spear skills. As for tempering his body with true essence, he would first reach as high a ranking as he could to receive more time at the 7 major killing arrays, and then he would decide how to proceed. Bang! Lin finally couldn't hold it any longer, and the 100 Jin boulder dropped to the ground, forming a dust cloud as it hit. Lin Ming grabbed a hold of the spear with his left hand, aimed at the boulder, and thrust his spear forward. Peng! There was a loud bang as the metal struck stone. An incredible scene occurred. Not only was the boulder pierced by Lin Ming's spear, but the boulder was also shattered into pieces, as if explosive gunpowder had been detonated in the center of the stone. The stone blew up into tiny fragments and scattered all around. Chapter 82, Powers Far and Wide. Chapter 82, Powers Far and Wide. Seeing all the scattered stones, Lin Ming let loose a light breath. The flow like silk recorded down in the chaotic virtues combat meridians was at a stage far more profound and advanced than the body-tearing bone-shattering fist. The highest boundary of the body-tearing bone-shattering fist could only touch the threshold of flow like silk. If he achieved large success in strength training's flow like silk, then with that spear thrust, the boulder would have exploded into fine powder and scattered into the air with just a gust of wind. At this point, Lin Ming was able to use his empty hand to block Zhong Kang's slender saber and use his own true essence to disperse Zhong Kang's true essence. If his flow like silk was able to go a step further, then Lin Ming might even have been able to use his empty hand to block a martial skill. His vibrations would shock the gathering of true essence and scatter all of it that had condensed into the martial skill, just like that boulder. If the true essence scattered, then there would be no martial skill. No matter how unpredictable a martial skill an opponent had, or how gorgeous and magnificent, as long as their cultivation was not too far from Lin Ming's, then he would be able to shatter it with a single move. It could be said to be a single move that could break through 1,000 variations. This strength training's flow like silk is just too heaven-defying. Lin Ming sighed with emotion. The longer and farther he cultivated, he discovered more and more how truly terrifyingly powerful the chaotic virtues combat meridians really was. He had only reached the perfect first layer of the true primal chaos formula and reached the beginning stages of flow like silk, and other such starting skills. If he managed to cultivate these to the large success stage in the future, and learned even more ingenious and wonderful skills, there was no telling how strong he would become. In the memories of that elder, he remembered that once he reached the large success stage of the chaotic virtues combat meridians, he would be able to open the 8 inner hidden gates and the 9 stars of the Tao Palace in his body. Once that happened, his vitality would be like a rainbow that passed through the world, every roar would be like giving birth to thunder, and every fist would be enough to destroy moons and sink stars. A martial artist who had reached this stage had never appeared within the history of the Sky Spill continent, and probably never would. This time I defeated Zhong Kang and the commotion from it wasn't small. My strength has risen too dramatically these past few months, it really is a bit too high profile. But if I want to maintain this indomitable spirit, then I have to struggle for resources in the 7 profound martial house. With such exposure, I might have drawn others' attention to me who want to see if I'm hiding anything. But if they really want to check me, then they will probably only find that there is some master behind me. The gambling match between Lin Ming and Zhong Kang originally hadn't seemed like it was an important matter, but now, the truth was that the details about this match had spread like the wind across the 7 profound martial house, and subsequently been passed on to the information network of every major power in the Sky Fortune Kingdom. The name Lin Ming had also appeared on every major power's internal meetings conference table. Lin Ming. 15 years old, 7 profound martial house Earth Hall disciple. Current rank, 126. Weapon, spear. To defeat Zhong Kang, who was rank 103 on the ranking stone, wasn't considered a great deed, but the one who defeated Zhong Kang was Lin Ming. Lin Ming had only been in the 7 profound martial house for 1 month. This really was cause for startle. This was an even more terrifying growth speed than any old disciple of the 7 profound martial house. It had to be known that even if it was Ling Sen, Ta Ku, or Zhong Guanyu, they would not have such strength with only 1 month at the 7 profound martial house. And what was most astounding was that Lin Ming had defeated Zhong Kang with the foundation spear technique. From beginning to end he had used a single spear move, Flood Dragon Goes to Sea. Although this move, Flood Dragon Goes to Sea, had a resounding and impressive name, the reality was that it was just a single plain straight thrust. In an army of several 100,000 soldiers who thrust the spear together, they would let out a shout in unison, and the imposing aura that would emanate from them would be like a flood dragon that was rushing out the sea. That was why the move had such a name. However, that indomitable aura was from an army of several 100,000 soldiers wielding spears together. It was unheard of for just a single person to have such a display of grandeur that their spear would be where a flood dragon goes to sea, but Lin Ming had actually achieved this state. The competition was witnessed by many experts. An amateur would go to enjoy the fun, but an expert would go to observe the truth. Ta Ku had personally affirmed the potential of Lin Ming's spear thrust. Ta Ku was the top-tier talent who had been the second-ranked disciple on the ranking stone for years, so his words carried a certain importance. But Ta Ku had not mentioned that before that spear thrust, Lin Ming had also used his palm and fist that had an elusive force to them. Even Ling Sen, who Ta Ku deeply admired, was at a total loss of what it meant. Many people had seen that fist and palm. However, not many of them were able to see that there was a profound and mysterious force that was contained within. Even if they did see this abstruse force, they would still not associate it with the body-tearing, bone-shattering fist, because there were some differences between Lin Ming's fist and palm, and the body-tearing, bone-shattering fist. Beyond that, most importantly, no one dared to believe that Lin Ming would be able to comprehend it, a jade slip that was missing 70% of its contents, and use that to succinctly complete the body-tearing, bone-shattering fist. Because of this bright halo that surrounded Lin Ming, the common talents and geniuses began to be pushed into his shadow. Results were everything. No matter Lin Ming's talent, or if he was just a 15-year-old boy, his achievements were an established fact, and he was already pressuring the likes of Ling Sen and Ta Ku. Who could know whether or not Lin Ming would obtain even more glorious achievements than Ling Sen and Ta Ku in the future? All the major powers, influences, and organizations would naturally not miss this kind of rising talent. However, the Seven Profound Martial House had a rule that any family, even the royal family, could not entering the martial house during the school period and attempt to recruit disciples. This was in order to avoid affecting the normal teachings of the martial house and the disciples' cultivation. Therefore, some major powers and great families' scouts would hover around the Seven Profound Martial House year-round, and wait for Lin Ming to leave school. Not only were they waiting for Lin Ming, but they were also keeping an eye on the new 10,000 killing array ranking war. They were waiting to see, just how high could Lin Ming reach this time? Of course, they would also appropriately look at all the other new disciples of the Earth Hall. At the last assessment, they hadn't seen anything, but after a month of class, if one were a true blue genius, they would inevitably stand out. It was only that under the light of Lin Ming's rising and shining bright halo, the other disciples could only take a modest supporting role. Even the champion of the Yuelu City Elite competition, the Wang family's #1 talent, Wang Yangfeng, could only be as such. Lin Ming had already been at the Seven Profound Martial House for 34 days, and it was time for the second 10,000 killing array assessment, as had been scheduled. The 10,000 killing array was in a valley that was covered by seemingly arrogant sword bamboo. Because this bamboo had been nourished over a long time with effort, the bamboo was tall and straight, and its leaves' edges were sharp. The ashlar square was located in the center of this sword bamboo grove. In the center of the ashlar square was an altar. At this time, many people were already gathered here and milling around. Most of these people were disciples of the Earth Hall. Of the 20 new Earth Hall disciples that had been here last month, only 7 or 8 of them had come again. In order to not have disciples come to the 10,000 killing array just to see if they could chance their way up another rank, and to not waste time in vain, the Seven Profound Martial House had a stipulation. This stipulation was that each time one wanted to challenge the 10,000 killing array, one had to mortgage a single true essence stone. If they could not rise at least 5 ranks, then their true essence stone would not be given back. For a new disciple of the Earth Hall, they would only receive 1 true essence stone per month. This was the amount of true essence stones it took to enter the 10,000 killing array. Therefore, those disciples that didn't have the confidence to advance at least 5 ranks would not come participate in this assessment, as a true essence stone was simply far too valuable for them. The pair of Wang Mang and Li Tai did not make an appearance today. The last time, these two people had relied upon their mercenary and fighting backgrounds to reach rankings in the 160s, but that was already their limit. Even if they wished to progress 5 ranks, it would not be easy in such a short period of time. In the crowd were not only disciples of the Seven Profound Martial House who had come to participate in the assessment, but also outside personnel who had come to the Seven Profound Martial House. They had gathered in a corner of the valley and were distantly looking on at the situation at the 10,000 killing array. These were intelligence operatives, detectives who had been sent by the major powers. Their job was to report to their masters the change in Lin Ming's ranking as soon as possible. According to the regulations of the Seven Profound Martial House, areas such as the 10,000 killing array and the Exquisite Pagoda, or the 7 major killing arrays, were restricted areas within the Seven Profound Martial House. Unauthorized people were not allowed to enter or wander around. That intelligence operatives could arrive at the mountain valley showed that their masters' hands and eyes could reach the sky and were of the highest authority. For instance, the group of 4 ash-clothed men who were quietly waiting in the sword bamboo grove, their lord was the current dynasty's crown prince. Chapter 83, Struggle of the Princes. Chapter 83, Struggle of the Princes. That these 4 ash-clothed men could enter the Seven Profound Martial House and directly view the ranking war was by the virtue of the Crown Prince's relations. This was already the limit. They could not break the customs of the Seven Profound Martial House and contact Lin Ming in private at the Martial House, and try to win over talents. In the Sky Fortune Kingdom, the Seven Profound Martial House was an aloof existence that was not under the jurisdiction of imperial authority. They were even without any legal restraints at all. This was mainly because the Seven Profound Martial House was under the subordination of the third-grade sect, the 7 Profound Valleys. The 7 Profound Valleys was a terrifying colossus that dominated the imperial authority. To put it bluntly, the 7 Profound Valley could easily abolish any crowned ruler of a country within a surrounding area of 200,000 miles. If one didn't obey orders, the 7 Profound Valleys could directly send out 3 or 4 Xiantian masters. These masters could enter and leave the royal palace with no resistance, and simply sever the emperor's head as if it were just another day. To take a broader view of the entire Sky Fortune Kingdom, the most powerful warriors such as Qin Xiao, Mui, and others, were around the middle Hutian stage. But this kind of person was already exceedingly rare, and most of them were gathered clustered together at the 7 Profound Martial House. Who they helped would be hard to say. With only a handful of middle Hutian stage masters to resist 3 or 4 Xiantian level powerhouses, how could they even think of retaliating? So once the emperor revolted against the orders of the 7 Profound Martial House, he could only wait to die. Then the 7 Profound Valleys would appoint the 7 Profound Envoy to set up a new emperor. If the entire royal family were to revolt, then the 7 Profound Valleys might even exterminate the emperor's entire clan. With such a terrible existence that was beyond all common sense, the Sky Fortune Kingdom, including all nearby countries, regarded the 7 Profound Valleys as a sacred, inviolable temple and carefully tread around them without the least bit of resistance. And every country's precious medicines and true essence stones had to be sent in chests and given to the 7 Profound Valleys. They even had to send out manpower and labor to help the 7 Profound Valleys in mining. As long as the royal family obediently followed all orders and gave the resources, then the 7 Profound Valleys would not interfere in the internal affairs of the nation, and would even occasionally help them get rid of rebellions. Of course, there was also a limit to their restrictions. If a monarch was dissolutely wicked and evil, or the government was incompetent, or the common folk could not live and would constantly rebel, then the 7 Profound Valleys would give up on the current government and set up a new dynasty. The significance of the 7 Profound Valleys setting up 7 profound martial houses in each country was for searching for talents and geniuses to bring to the 7 Profound Valleys, but it was also to monitor the various nations and to preside over them. The main duty of the Martial Housemaster was not the daily teachings of the Martial House, but was instead taking care of the responsibility for the mining and acquiring of the country's resources, such as true essence stones, rare and precious medicines, vicious beast blood, and other resources and materials that were constantly shipped back to the 7 Profound Valley. The Martial Housemaster and the 7 Profound Envoy had enormous authority in the Sky Fortune Kingdom. The Martial Housemaster was responsible for the gathering and collection of resources and management of the 7 Profound Martial House, and the 7 Profound Envoy was responsible for overseeing the imperial authority. Their status even dominated that of the emperor. It could be said that the 7 Profound Valleys was a gigantic blood-sucking vampire that drew in all the resources of numerous countries in a 200,000-mile radius. However, this blood-sucking vampire was just far too powerful, so no country dared to revolt. In fact, to the ruler of these countries, they would gladly sacrifice their country's cultivation resources in exchange for stability in their land. To mortals, inexhaustible wealth, bevies of beautiful women, and supreme authority were perhaps more appealing than some true essence stones. So facing the 7 Profound Martial House, the royal family did not dare to interfere, and also had to be careful around them. But as long as there were people, there would also be relations and connections. The 7 Profound Martial House was built in the Sky Fortune Kingdom after all, and it was appropriate to spare the royal family a few conveniences, such as allowing some of the emperor's relatives and juniors to enter the human hall as an exception. For instance, at present they had allowed 2 princes to send scouts into the 7 Profound Martial House to observe and watch the 10,000 killing arrays ranking war. Keep your spirits up, do not lose to the lackeys of the 10th prince, the head of these 4 ash-robed men said. He appeared over 40 years old and looked completely ordinary. Yeah, the other 3 people said. If the crown prince had sent people, then the 10th prince, who was competing for the throne, would naturally send some too. The ones who need the support of powerhouses the most was often not the large families, or the Chamber of Commerce, but the generals and princes. The generals guarded the borders and frontiers. When they marched to war, they needed powerhouses to deal with the enemies and accomplish missions. They also needed to be strong enough to protect themselves and avoid assassinations. As for the princes, they competed for the landscape of the state, and also needed the support of powerhouses to sweep clean all of their enemies. Therefore, how could the people of the Crown Prince and 10th Prince be absent? Before Lin Ming, the ones who had received the most attention in the 7 profound martial house were Ling Sen, Ta Ku, Zhong Guanyu, and several core disciples. Of the martial house core disciples, if there were no ominous accidents in the future, they would undoubtedly enter the 7 profound valleys. Afterwards, they might stay at the 7 profound valleys, or even be appointed as a 7 profound martial housemaster, or sent on other causes for the 7 profound valleys. If they stayed in the 7 profound valleys, then their existence would be aloof and distant, and their relations with the Sky Fortune Kingdom would not be too big. But if they became a 7 profound martial housemaster or a 7 profound envoy, then that would be extraordinary. In the Sky Fortune Kingdom, the status of the 7 profound martial housemaster and the 7 profound envoy exceeded the emperor's. It can be said that if a prince managed to win over a core disciple who one day might become a martial housemaster or a 7 profound envoy, then their chance of inheriting the throne would increase by 50%. If they won over a core disciple who had already become a martial housemaster or a 7 profound envoy, then the matter of them inheriting the throne could already be considered settled. However, all of the 7 profound martial house core disciples besides Qin Xingxuan had come from ancient martial families that had come to cultivate. They did not even belong to the Sky Fortune Kingdom. There was simply no hope in attempting to win them over. Moreover, since they did not belong to the Sky Fortune Kingdom, in the future it was most probable that they would not return to the Sky Fortune Kingdom, regardless of whether they became a 7 profound envoy or a martial housemaster. As for Qin Xingxuan, she was in a similar situation. With a 6th grade talent, she had resolved to pursue the Xiantian path, and most likely would later stay at the 7 profound valleys. Since there was no chance of winning over core disciples, what was left over were naturally the top-ranking stone masters of the heavenly abode. However, it was a pity that Ling Sen and Ta Ku were people of the military. They were talents of the Southwest Armed Forces of 8th Prince Yang, and had no chance of being won over. As for Zhong Guanyu, this person's family background was the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce had been able to exist for a very long time to the present day. A behemoth that could stand so long naturally had a self-preservation instinct to not stick their head out in places they shouldn't, so they would never under any circumstances participate in battles of the throne. For matters like this, such as where struggling dragons fought to snatch the throne, if they succeeded they would be able to make a name for themselves, but the Chamber of Commerce was already fabulously wealthy. They simply did not need any rewards of titles. Instead, if they overreached their influence and failed, then their entire family's properties would be confiscated, and all 9 generations of their family would be put to death. So Zhong Guanyu would not join any major powers, and instead devote his life to only the Chamber of Commerce. In this time where the throne was changing, suddenly appeared Lin Ming, who came out like a dazzling supernova. Even if Lin Ming's talent was limited, he might surprise everyone in the future. Some of the princes would spare no expense in winning over Lin Ming. If this miracle continued, then in the end he would become a preeminent master who would surpass Ling Sen and Ta Ku. As for becoming a core disciple, they had never considered this. After all, Lin Ming's qualifications were just too ordinary. A quarter hour before the 10,000 killing array was about to start, the ash-robed leader of the 4 detectives under the Crown Prince's command suddenly moved his face, and whispered, "Lin Ming came. Cheer up. Ya. For this mission, we must be successful, we cannot fail. Even if we do not win over Lin Ming, we absolutely cannot let him fall into the hands of the 10th Prince, otherwise, we will bring our heads to the Crown Prince. Ya." Chapter 84, Gathering of Masters. Chapter 84, Gathering of Masters. A few breaths after that ash-robed detective said those words, Lin Ming appeared in a corner of the bamboo grove. That detective's eye was like a hawk that was sizing up its prey. Lin Ming. Really young, not even 16 years old. His face still appears to be a little naive, but if I look carefully, I can see that there is a shocking sharp and proud aura on his forehead. This face and aura is certainly not something that comes from a little pond. That is a 820 jin long spear called the Penetrating Rainbow. Yesterday I specially went to the Divine Weapon Hall to ask the storekeeper who sold this spear. That a 15-year-old youth would choose such a heavy weapon that is difficult to learn, his boldness and courage is really praiseworthy. If the day ever arrives that a prince tries to stage a coup d'état on the crown prince or plot a rebellion, then Lin Ming can take hold of this penetrating rainbow to protect our lord the emperor. This spear, with a single sweep, can take the lives of several scores of people. This Lin Ming, I absolutely must win him over for His Highness the Crown Prince. When Lin Ming arrived carrying the penetrating rainbow, he almost instantly attracted the gaze of everyone present. Some of these stares were particularly burning, as if they were imprinting the image of him into their mind. After Lin Ming studied the true primal chaos formula, his perception was exceptionally keen. He followed this scalding gaze to see an ash-robed man standing in a corner of the sword bamboo grove. The ash-robed man slightly hesitated. Did he sense me? His location was very distant and blended in. There was no reason that he should be spotted in the crowd where everyone was looking at him. Unfortunately, he was noticed, because he felt that this stare was significantly different. This Lin Ming, his observation of others is as if he has some kind of special sensor. It's just too inconceivable. Is his soul force much stronger than others? The ash-clothed man said as he secretly noted this characteristic. Later, he would prepare a report with all of the information for the crown prince. After Lin Ming arrived, he chose a place to sit down and laid the penetrating rainbow flat on his knee. He closed his eyes and meditated as he controlled his breathing. The other disciples of the martial house frequently cast their vision over to him. Even some of the disciples of the heavenly abode felt a faint fear towards Lin Ming's growing strength. Although as of now his strength was inferior them, maybe soon he would catch up very quickly. The 7 profound martial house regulations stated that as long as an Earth Hall disciple entered the top 80 ranks of the ranking stone, they would have the opportunity to send out a single challenge to any disciple of the heavenly abode. Once they won, then they would displace that disciple and become a new disciple of the heavenly abode. The loser would be eliminated. The number of disciples of the heavenly abode was fixed at 72 members. In these 72 people, there were changes every month. At the end of every ranking war every month, it was normal for 2 or 3 challenges to be sent out. The disciples of the Earth Hall were always aiming to push out disciples of the heavenly abode. After all, the difference in treatment between disciples of the Earth Hall and the heavenly abode was just too big. Once they entered the heavenly abode, they would immediately receive an extra reward, including top-quality pills, 15 true essence stones, and 30 hours of time to use the 7 major killing arrays. Lin Ming would reach the top 80 this time or next time, and then challenge one of them. So how could these people not be worried? Nobody wanted to be expelled from the heavenly abode. Not only did this mean losing the massive amount of resources, it was also a huge loss of face. By now, the crowd was in a tumultuous uproar. Li Yang, Wu Wei Dao, Zhu Yang, 3 masters in the top 50 rankings suddenly appeared. This time's 10,000 killing array assessment is really a gathering of masters. As the crowd talked, Lin Ming's eyes fell upon Zhu Yang. Together with Zhu Yang, was of course Lan Yunyu. Lan Yunyu had just entered the ashlar square where she stopped. She hid in a corner of the sword bamboo grove, obviously not willing meet Lin Ming and be put in that embarrassing and awkward situation. Lin Ming did not even spare Lan Yunyu a glance. His eyes were locked on Zhu Yang. Zhu Yang, you have finally appeared. I've already been at the 7 profound martial house for more than a month, and this is my first time seeing you. Zhu Yang also looked at Lin Ming. Very few people knew of the ongoing feud between them, so their stares were not brought to anyone's attention. This was also because Li Yang and Wu Wei Dao were similarly looking at Lin Ming. This newer generation disciple would possibly become a powerful rival after all. Paying attention to him was normal. Zhu Yang only looked at Lin Ming in a deadpan manner, having no expression on the surface, as if he did not know who Lin Ming was. He looked at Lin Ming for a moment, then turned away. However, at that moment, Lin Ming actually felt that within Zhu Yang's eyes was hidden a cold and murderous intent. His battle with Zhu Yang had started because of Lan Yunyu, but now, it no longer had anything to do with Lan Yunyu. Lin Ming regarded Zhu Yang as a hurdle in his road of martial arts that he had to cross over in order to continue forward. But Zhu Yang, because of his repeated defeat and frustrations, regarded Lin Ming as a thorn in his side that had to be removed, otherwise his heart of martial arts would never be whole, and it would always have a thorn. At the start, both sides only wanted to step on the other, and step on them so that they could never stand up from the failure. But now, they wanted to directly destroy the other party, in particular Zhu Yang, who was already planning on how to kill Lin Ming. Look. Bai Jingyun and Murongzi, they are also two masters in the top 50 rankings. There are more and more masters coming. This time's 10,000 killing array ranking war is truly a convergence of dragons. With the appearance of Bai Jingyun and Murongzi, they had all captivated the eyes of everyone present. They caused a stir that was even larger than Lin Ming. Lin Ming had only drawn everyone's eyes, but these two Bai Jingyun and Murongzi made all of the male disciples too excited and uncomfortable to stand, and sent their fighting spirits soaring to the sky. The reason for this was because these two people were extremely beautiful women. There weren't originally many female disciples at the Seven Profound Martial House. Female disciples with formidable strength, superb temperament, and the looks of a goddess were even fewer. Girls like Bai Jingyun and Murongzi were really the cream of the crop when it came to girls. In the entire nation, it would be impossible to find many like them. The two women were collectively referred to as the Seven Profound Proud Pair. It could be said that 1,000 myriad graces were set in one body. Many sons of the major powers and large families had hopes to kiss their perfumed hair, however, they always returned in utter failure. As beautiful, proud women, they were very arrogant and were not necessarily willing to marry and become a man's wife. Even if they did, they would look for a dragon among men. Status and wealth were not enough, they also wanted strength with a good, moral character. Zhu Yang and others like him were insufficient. Even the princes who wished to marry the two girls as their royal concubines were unable to do so. After the two girls arrived, Bai Jingyun looked at Lin Ming and then sat down on a clean grass patch in a clearing of the bamboo grove, along with Murongzi. They discussed some secretive girly things, and no longer cared about other people's attention. Before the aftermath of the arrival of Bai Jingyun and Murongzi had cleared, there was another stir among the crowd. Ling Sen. Taku. Heavens. My heavens. Those two also came today. For Ling Sen and Taku, there was no longer any significance in participating in the 10,000 killing array assessment. Their rankings were unshakable, and they were already at the first and second place. There was nowhere for them to advance in the rankings. They are not necessarily here to participate. They probably came to watch the ranking war. There is the possibility. This time too many masters have appeared. The rising star Lin Ming is shining too brightly, it's natural for them to pay attention to him. Lin Ming silently looked at Ling Senator, although was the third time they'd met. The first time they had met, Lin Ming hadn't felt just how terrible and frightening a person Ling Sen was. With the improvement of his cultivation, he increasingly felt Ling Sen's fearful aura. Although Ling Sen's cultivation could be compared equally with Qin Xingxuan, Lin Ming truly believed that Qin Xingxuan was not Ling Sen's match. This Ling Sen was a complete cold-blooded killing machine, simply a murderous beast. On the field, more and more masters began to gather. As the 10,000 killing array assessment was about to start, 9 masters in the top 50 rankings had already arrived. This number was already quite high. In the entire year, only at the final examination that took place at the end of the school year would one see a scene like this where all the top masters had gathered. Chapter 85, Murongzi, by Jingyun. Chapter 85, Murongzi, by Jingyun. The assessment shall officially begin. All those present who wish to participate in the assessment must pay 1 true essence stone to enter the 10,000 killing array. Before the deacon senior apprentice who was in charge of the 10,000 killing array finished his words, Wang Yangfeng was already the first one to jump onto the altar. The Wang Yangfeng, he really gets braver the more he's frustrated. I wonder how many ranks he will be able to rise this time. The audience under the stage was discussing Wang Yanfeng's previous assessment performance. Before, he had managed to attain rank 168, But after his assessment was over, several others had already surpassed him, and they had pushed Wang Yangfeng down into the 172nd position. Wang Yangfeng calmed his mind in meditation as he sat down on the 10,000 killing array altar. He had realized that today, he would only be playing a small role. Even in the next year or two, this would not be his stage. All he could do was steadily fight, one step at a time. The assessment shall begin. A cover of light fell down on the stage, and Wang Yangfeng began his killing. Most of the 12 people on stage were around rank 120. As the assessment began to wind down, Wang Yangfeng was the third to be defeated. His final ranking was rank 145. This Wang Yangfeng managed to pass rank 150. This is only temporary, he will be pushed down later. However, being able to enter the top 150 ranks in the second month is very good. Wang Yangfeng truly was a very good talent, however, Lin Ming's halo was simply too abundantly bright, and he was completely neglected. Second round. If you wish to participate in the assessment, come on stage. The deacon's senior apprentice said once again. As the 12 positions emptied, a young girl in purple clothes flew onto the stage like a gust of wind. She stood firmly on a spot. This girl was Murongzi. Sister Jingyun, let's finish the assessment early. All right. Immediately, Bai Jingyun also appeared on stage. Some from the crowd called out in excitement and alarm. These two beautiful and arrogant women were 17 and 18 years old. Putting their heavenly appearances and temperaments aside, these two girls' martial arts talent could be considered in the top 10 of Sky Fortune Kingdom's younger generation. Moreover, these two also had outstanding family backgrounds, others could only sigh at them as if they were the clouds above them. Murongzi had attended the 7 Profound Martial House for 2 years, and her ranking was 36. Bai Jingyun had been at the Martial House for 3 years, and her ranking was 26. These results, especially Murongzi's, were just as good as Zhu Yang's. When beautiful women came to the assessment, it was always very easy to attract the attention of many. Even the many spies turned their heads, as the major powers that they worked for, such as the 10th prince, had always wished to marry these two girls. Certainly, compared to these two girls, Qin Xingxuan was a far more splendid existence. But Qin Xingxuan was too distant an ideal. She had resolved to pursue the road to being a Xiantian master. A Xiantian master was truly a legend from stories, mortals could not even hope of touching them. To marry Qin Xingxuan was only a fool's dream, thus Murongzi and Bai Jingyun became increasingly wanted by all men. If they married them, then not only would they enjoy the bliss of being their husband, but they would also receive a big boost in their life from their support. With this and so many other advantages, who wasn't moved by this? If they could marry them together, that would simply be the pinnacle of life. Not even the royal princes dared to dream so greedily. The light cover of the 10,000 killing array fell over them, and the assessment of these two girls officially began. Some male disciples of the human hall were staring at these two girls' bodies as they were bathed in light, and their fists tightened and lips mumbled, as if they were even more anxious than them about this assessment. Seeing this, Lin Ming had a slight feeling in his heart. When someone knew perfectly well in his heart that they could not obtain something, and that something had nothing to do with them, then they might even more earnestly pay attention, and even worry. This was the sorrow of the irrelevant person. Irrelevant person, even if they entered the 7 Profound Martial House, if they could not bloom like a spring flower in this talented crowd of steep competition, then they would eventually become an irrelevant person regardless. 6 incense sticks worth of time had already passed. On the altar, Murongzi lightly coughed, and her small face paled as she came down from the stage. This scene alone made all of the numerous staring males grip their hands with a worried expression. If they could suffer this pain for Murongzi, they would gladly endure it. Murongzi's final ranking was 28. This ranking was truly startling. Shortly after, Bai Jingyun also stepped down from the altar. Her final ranking, rank 22. These two proud and beautiful women were becoming increasingly dazzling. If another year passed, it would be possible for them to even enter the top 10. All the scouts quickly lit their sound-transmitting talismans and reported to their masters. This matter was enough to be brought to the attention of the princes. These two girls were really the highest quality of women. However, it was a pity that no matter how the princes' hearts were moved, they could not force themselves upon them. They feared the power behind them, and although their own influence wasn't small, they had to respect and obey the orders of the royal family. These princes could simply not disregard the seven profound martial house. No one, no organization, not even the royal family, had the courage to force a disciple of the seven profound martial house. If they aggressed the rules of the seven profound martial house and bullied a disciple, that would be tantamount to treating the seven profound valleys with contempt. The terrifying power of the seven profound valleys was enough to bring the royal family trembling to their knees in fear. The third round of the assessment shall begin. Those disciples who wish to participate, come on stage. The deacon's senior apprentice announced once more. After the positions were vacated, Zhu Yang shot Lin Ming a subtle glance, and then slowly stepped onto the stage. Zhu Yang went on stage. With his talent, Zhu Yang was not necessarily in the top 10 geniuses of his generation, but the differences weren't far off. He was 17 years old, with a superior 4th-grade talent. He had attended the Seven Profound Martial House for 2 years, and his ranking stone rank was 30. The result was only inferior to Murongzi. Certainly, to reach this point, Zhu Yang had to expend much more effort and time than the playful and not-so-serious Murongzi. Therefore this talent was truthfully somewhat bad. With Zhu Yang's strengths and talents, he had certainly attracted the attention of many major powers. However, Zhu Yang was doomed to never be a person who could be wooed and won over. The Zhu family household head's daughter was Zhu Yang's aunt. She had married into the royal palace and had later become a royal concubine empress. She was the mother of the enormously influential 10th prince. So Zhu Yang had been doomed to be a person of the 10th prince. According to Sky Fortune Kingdom's rules of succession, the son of a concubine could not be an heir. However, the emperor was not young, and the empress had no child, therefore the emperor had set the first son of the royal concubine empress, the 3rd prince, as heir and crown prince. The 3rd prince began reading and writing at an early age, but his martial arts talent was only a mere 2nd grade. His strength was limited, and though he had a good and kind heart, it was not possible for him to safely inherit the throne. But the 10th prince's martial talent was the highest among all of the emperor's sons at an inferior 4th grade. In addition to this hard work, his cultivation was also very high. In his 20s, the 10th prince had commanded troops at the border and had become renowned as a valiant warrior who had repeatedly won many military exploits. He was then given the title of the Cloud King, and bestowed a purple gold crown, and a royal robe with a 4-clawed dragon. In the Sky Fortune Kingdom, not every emperor's son would be conferred a grand title. There were 2 different titles, the first was a prince, and the second one was a duke. The prince was a first-rank title, for instance the 10th prince's Cloud King, and they could also possess territories and have such power equal to a national treasure like the royal jade seal. But the duke was only a 2nd-rank title, and they could only possess a manor. Concerning power and influence among the ruling parties and opposition parties, the 10th prince's might was even superior to the crown prince. It was anyone's guess of whose hands the throne would fall into in the future. Once the 10th prince ascended the throne, then Zhu Yang would be a younger cousin of the emperor. Zhu Yang's mother was only a concubine of the Zhu family, and could only be known as a concubine's son. But his aunt was actually the royal concubine empress, and she was related to him through his father. Although their blood relation was a bit distant, with Zhu Yang's outstanding strength, he would definitely be able to obtain the valuable trust of the new emperor. Assessment start. After Zhu Yang entered the 10,000 killing array, people immediately lit an incense stick to measure the time. Incense sticks began burning out one after the other, and soon the 5th incense stick was half gone. Zhu Yang only now had a slightly weakened complexion. As the 6th incense stick was lit and almost burnt through, Zhu Yang let out a cough and was sent out from the 10,000 killing array. Final ranking, 32. Lin Ming quietly looked at this rank and didn't think it was surprising. Zhu Yang had already been in the 7 profound martial houses' heavenly abode for more than half a year. At that time, his cultivation was only at the peak 3rd stage of body transformation, but now he had broken into the 4th stage of body transformation. It wasn't unusual for his cultivation to increase by leaps and bounds. 32. Last month my rank was 126th. Lin Ming traced the shaft of the penetrating rainbow he carried on his back and unconsciously licked his lips. Then, I will go on stage, to see how wide the gap is between myself and Zhu Yang. Chapter 86. The Limit of Killing Speed. Chapter 86. The Limit of Killing Speed. The several detectives sent by the princes immediately burnt their sound-transmitting talisman. The crown prince was informed of Zhu Yang's status. After all, Zhu Yang was one of the important figures who served under the banner of the 10th prince. Murongzi saw Zhu Yang's ranking and curled her lips in disgust. She wasn't too satisfied or happy with this Zhu Yang sticking to her footsteps like melted candy. Humph, next time I will leave him in my dust. Murongzi said with some satisfaction. Haha, then you must work diligently. Your talent is better than Zhu Yang, it's almost 5th grade. Bai Jingyun said with a smile. That doesn't mean anything. In the entire 7 profound martial house, not counting the core disciples, only Zhong Guanyu is a 5th grade talent. But that fellow Zhong Guanyu is just an oily playboy with nothing in his head. I don't like him very much. Well, Sister Jing, are you concerned about Lin Ming? Murongzi discovered that Bai Jingyun had been watching Lin Ming. Millimeter. He is going to go on stage now. There is nothing about him that's worth paying attention to. His talent is limited, he just happened to have a spot of good luck and ate some valuable material, and that's why he has his current strength. Bai Jingyun shook her head and said, luck is also a kind of strength. Isn't being born with a good cultivating martial talent also a kind of luck? Being born in an aristocratic family is similarly also a kind of luck. Like that, you and I can be considered very lucky people also. Nobody can say that Lin Ming won't be able to continue this streak of good luck. Also, he wasn't so strong when he had entered the 7 profound martial house. It must be the Crimson Gold Dragon Marrow Pill and the Golden Snake Scarlet Pill that allowed his cultivation to progress so quickly. Perhaps his physique is particularly suitable for absorbing the efficacy of precious medicines. As Bai Jingyun was speaking, Lin Ming had already stepped onto the altar. The eyes of everyone present turned to Lin Ming. They wanted to see whether or not this Lin Ming would be able to create a new record today, and have his name written down as the miracle among the new disciples of the 7 profound martial house. The operatives sent by the major powers also rallied their spirits. In these groups of people were intelligence veterans as well as seasoned lobbyists. They were waiting for Lin Ming to leave the 7 profound martial house, and then persuade him with their eloquence to support their master. The cover of light from the 10,000 killing array came down, and Lin Ming's entire body was bathed in a glow. In the next moment, he was transported to a vast, white world. Like last time, there were a variety of weapons that were presented all around him. The saber, the sword, the spear, it had it all. Spear. Spear shaft, 8 feet. Spearhead, 8 inches. Dark purple elastic iron spear shaft, cloud vein wrought iron spear point, total weight 820 jins. Lin Ming devised the weapon in his mind, and in the next second, a dark purple-colored long spear almost the same as the penetrating rainbow appeared in Lin Ming's hand. Lin Ming's casually shook the spear in his hands, and the dark purple long spear began to hum. The strength of the vibration that flowed down the spear shaft could easily crush rock. At this time, in front of Lin Ming, a dozen phantom shades appeared in front of him. These phantoms included martial artists and vicious beasts. The majority of their strength was at the early 2nd stage of body transformation to the early 3rd stage of body transformation. There was even one who was at the peak 3rd stage of body transformation. To the present Lin Ming, these opponents were nothing at all. Lin Ming steadied his feet and took his stance. His right hand held the spear horizontally, and his elbow was pressed up tight against the spear's end. This stance he exhibited now was the iron bridge blocks the river. Roar. The dozen phantom shades rushed forwards together. These were just phantom illusions, but they had the ability to coordinate, and they dispersed into a semicircle around Lin Ming, and then lunged at him at the same time. Generally a martial artist, even if they were a master, being encircled by so many bloodthirsty enemies, could only evade first, and then dodge left and right in the crowd and defeat them one at a time. because unless there was a great disparity in strength, nobody was able to simultaneously deal with the attacks of a dozen enemies that came from all direction. However, to Lin Ming, he was able to completely disregard all these attacks. With a cry, his left hand slapped the spear's end, and his right hand gripped the spear shaft and suddenly sent it flying out horizontally. The long spear lashed out like a dragon's tail. It could sweep away an army of 1,000. As the spear swept out, the dark purple long spear hit the first enemy's body. This was a first-level vicious beast. Because of Lin Ming's formidable strength, as the spear head smashed into the vicious beast, the spear bent like a bow. Then, with a popping sound, the spear shaft straightened, and the vicious beast's spine was directly crushed. The momentum of the dark purple long spear did not lessen, and it swept on and hit the second vicious beast's body. The vicious beast was torn in half, followed by the third. Lin Ming's strength was more than 4,000 jins. Combined with an 820 jin dark purple long spear, a single sweep contained an invincible surging might. In that moment, of the dozen enemies, more than half were all swept away by Lin Ming's spear. Roar. Of the dozen phantoms, only the vicious beast with strength equal to the peak third stage of body transformation was able to dodge Lin Ming's long spear. In that moment, it suddenly accelerated forward like a meteor and charged at Lin Ming's chest. Lin Ming's long spear was out, and his defenses were open. He had no weapon to defend against the sharp fangs of this second-level vicious beast. As Lin Ming saw these sword-like fangs come forward to stab into his neck, Lin Ming cried out. His right hand held onto the spear, and his left hand was suddenly formed into a fist. Body-tearing, bone-shattering fist. Pang! Lin Ming's fist pounded into that vicious beast's chest, and with a loud crack, the body of that giant vicious beast which weighed several hundred jins was instantly split apart. Lin Ming's whole body was bathed in blood. His right hand drew back his long spear. He turned his body and gripped the spear in both hands. A red full moon suddenly appeared at the end of the cloud vein wrought iron spear point. Killing circle. Pa 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 pa. Suddenly what seemed to be like several leather blood bags exploded in the air, showering the entire area with rich red blood. All of the remaining enemies had blown up. From when these vicious beasts and martial artists had thrown themselves forward, to when Lin Ming had made his strike and completely destroyed all of them, the time had been no more than 2 breath. Lin Ming had used 2 spear moves and 1 fist. The 10,000 killing array did not even have the time to create new phantoms. The entire illusory magic array had been completely cleared by Lin Ming. This killing speed was completely abnormal. After 2 blinks, there was a distortion in the space, and new phantom shades appeared. This time, whether it was a vicious beast or a martial artist, their strength was a level higher than before. He who strikes first has the advantage. Lin Ming did not even wait for these phantoms to stabilize their form and had already shot towards the nearest one. Flood Dragon goes to sea. The dark purple long spear thrust out with indomitable momentum. Pa. The peak third stage body transformation martial artist was pierced by Lin Ming's spear. With a wave, Lin Ming threw the corpse off of his spear. His spear seemed filled with an epic spirit. The 8 feet 8-inch dark purple long spear was just like a dark purple flood dragon that swam in a sea of bloodshed. Everywhere the spear went, blood would flow. To sweep away an army of 1,000, there was only the spear. In the chaos and midst of battle, the spear was the absolute best weapon. Of course, the prerequisites were that one must have thick and vast true essence, as well as the physical strength to support such a terrifying rate of strength consumption. Killing circle. Lin Ming wielded his spear, and 3 vicious beasts were blown flying backwards, their hands cracked open. At this point, Lin Ming's muscles corded and his veins bulged like twisting worms. Lin Ming was rapidly revolving the true primal chaos formula in his body, and with every breath, the air current condensed into a large snake that floated in the air. Only with the perfect first layer of the true primal chaos formula together with the true essence provided from the third stage of body transformation, was Lin Ming able to kill the enemies with such demonic speed. Chapter 87, Sweeping Away All. Chapter 87, Sweeping Away All. I wonder just how long this Lin Ming can persist inside. Outside of the 10,000 killing array, Everyone's focus was turned towards Lin Ming. Even several of the heavenly abode disciples who ranked in the top 70 who were on the altar with Lin Ming were ignored. He'll last at least 4 incense sticks of time, maybe even half of a fifth. Zhong Kang is able to last until 3.5 incense sticks. Since Lin Ming defeated Zhong Kang, his advance to the top 100 rankings is assured. Even the top 90 or 80 is not impossible. Advancing to the top 100 is absolutely no problem, but to reach the top 80 is not so easy. Those are the rankings approaching a disciple of the heavenly abode. The spots are highly competitive. If you can enter the top 80, then you are eligible to challenge a disciple of the heavenly abode, and even have the possibility of entering. If that's true, then someone who is able to enter the heavenly abode after being at the 7 profound martial house for only a month is just inhuman. There were people that were able to enter the top 90 in their ranking war, but those people were over 20 years old. They had all reasons they couldn't enter the 7 profound martial house earlier. For a 15-year-old to advance into the top 100 in just the second round, as far as I know, that hasn't happened for the last 100 years. In these past 10 years only Qin Xingxuan has had the ability to do this, but she was directly promoted to a court disciple. It has little to do with us. A single incense stick burnt through, then 2, then 3. As the 4th incense stick lit up, Lin Ming's face flushed with blood on the 10,000 killing arrays stage. Something's not right, Sister Jingyun. It seems that Lin Ming might not be able to last much longer. The 4th incense stick has just started to burn. If this continues, he can only barely advance to the top 100. Murongzi's eyesight was very good. She managed to see through the translucent light of the array and see Lin Ming's circumstances clearly. Lin Ming's breathing now held a slight disorder. That was the manifestation of consuming too much true essence. Bai Jingyun frowned. They had thought that Lin Ming might be able to last until the 5th incense stick burnt through, but not it seemed that it would be a bit uncertain. Maybe just the 4th incense stick would be his limit. Lin Ming was weakened. It might have been that he was too careless in the 10,000 killing array at the start, and he was injured at the beginning. If one were injured at the start, then each time they fought would consume more strength and energy, and having a bleeding wound was extremely fatal. With something like that occurring, then their ranking would not only fail to rise, but instead fall, and cause the amount of resources they received every month to drop. Martial artists that entered the 10,000 killing array were always mindful about this, and were careful to avoid mistakes as much as possible. Being able to not be injured so early is also an aspect of strength. Big sister, I think that this Lin Ming is not as fierce as you thought. Murongzi pursed her lips and remained unconvinced of Lin Ming. She had always been told that she was an infant prodigy since childhood. Now that she had been shown up by someone 2 years younger than her, she was naturally dubious of such a young boy. Oh, not that fierce. Good, well then, if Lin Ming's strength is really so poor, and he can only insist for 4 incense sticks of time, then my little sister, how long were you able to last when you had been in the 7 profound martial house for 1 month? Murong was at a loss for words. When she had just entered the 7 profound martial house, she had been unable to reach the top 150 rankings in her first assessment. The second time she had not reached the top 140, her performance was simply too far from Lin Ming's. She simply turned her chin and looked towards the assessment, pretending she hadn't heard. The truth was that the time of a martial house disciple's greatest progress on the ranking stone was during the end of the school term. During this time, many disciples would graduate, and those masters that were eyesores would be gone. The top rankings would naturally empty, and those new disciples would be arranged in their places. Therefore, even if a 7 profound martial house disciple's strength was disappointing, their ranking would jump up the longer they stayed at the martial house. Seeing Murongzi act so childishly, Bai Jingyun smiled and didn't pursue the matter. Even if Lin Ming could only persist for 4 incense sticks of time and reach the top 100, that was still a result to be proud of. In the 7 profound martial house, the number of monstrous geniuses who had reached this level could be counted on one hand. Big brother, this Lin Ming doesn't seem as if he can last much longer. Ta Ku said to Ling Sen as he rubbed his chin. But even with 4 incense sticks of time, that result is also astonishing. But of course. He uses a spear, and not only that, but it is a heavy spear. The spear has many usages. This Lin Ming's spear probably has some very epic and grand fighting style. In a giant group battle, this fighting method can be called a fierce way to kill enemies. However, the average person wouldn't dare to use it, because strength is consumed too quickly. That's why even amazingly fierce generals find it impossible to cut down tens of thousands of people. In the 10,000 killing array, even if they used a spear, they would not dare to fight constantly and would try to delay the time and recover their strength. The enemy will just emerge one after the other incessantly, and each time they come they are stronger. Ta Ku used a staff. A spear and a staff were different, but had similar methods. Naturally, he knew of the advantages and disadvantages of such a weapon. Let's wait and see how long Lin Ming can last. In the 10,000 killing array, Lin Ming's spear sent a sword-wielding martial artist flying backwards. His face was covered in blood. It seems as if I've overdone it in killing. Lin Ming looked forward at a knight approaching him. The black-armored knight grasped a long halberd and rode a fully armored warhorse, his face revealing an imposing expression. Bone-forging stage martial artist. Lin Ming madly swept his purple-black spear into a group. Being able to kill one enemy with one move was already highly efficient, but Lin Ming was actually able to kill several. That's why, as the third incense stick was ignited, there were already bone-forging stage martial artists appearing. They were at a cultivation higher than Lin Ming by 2 whole stages. Lin Ming fought with the black-armored knight just now several times. It was strong, and moved well on its armored horse. When it dashed at him on that giant rushing horse, Lin Ming was unable to find any advantage. For the talents of the 7 profound martial house, generally they were able to fight opponents who were a stage above them. For instance, the peak 3rd stage of body transformation Zhongkang was able to fight those who were at the peak 4th stage of body transformation. But Lin Ming, even within all the talents at the 7 profound martial house, was still able to fight those a stage above him. He had won against Zhongkang with just his early 3rd stage of body transformation. This black-armored knight was at the early bone-forging stage, and Lin Ming was just able to barely come to a draw with him. With so many other enemies around, Lin Ming was not able to take advantage of the fact that the enemy was an illusory phantom. Their inflexible minds and rigid attack patterns had many weaknesses, but at present, surrounded by so many enemies that emerged one after the other and endlessly attacked, Lin Ming was in serious danger. Bang! As soon as Lin Ming and the black-armored knight exchanged blows again, although the dark purple elastic iron spear had strong superior cushioning properties, Lin Ming still felt his hands tingle with numbness. The black-armored knight's horse reared up at Lin Ming, but Lin Ming had already bounced backwards and flipped around a couple of times in midair. Roar! A 2nd-level vicious beast took advantage of this moment when Lin Ming was airborne with no balance and rushed at him. 2 paws that were sharp like knives were coming towards Lin Ming's chest. Lin Ming only heard shouting in his ears. He gripped the dark purple long spear and used its 820 jins of weight to stop his inertia in the air and balance himself. He took a deep breath, and the airflow from his nose was like a streaming long snake. He looked towards the oncoming vicious beasts and threw a fierce punch, body-tearing bone-shattering fist. Po! The vicious beast's body exploded from behind with a giant hole. The gooey flesh and blood and internal organs were all blown out from the back of the hole. 1 punch kill. Lin Ming tumbled into the group of vicious beasts. Before he caught his breath, all of the vicious beasts in his immediate surroundings had already been killed. Chapter 88, The Final Spear. Chapter 88, The Final Spear. Lin Ming tumbled into the group of vicious beasts. Before he caught his breath, all of the vicious beasts in his immediate surroundings had already been killed. Ho! A spear swept out, and the dark purple long spear curved like a full moon. An 800 jin heavy vicious beast was split in half and sent flying away. A martial artist's sternum collapsed, and all 5 internal organs burst open on the scene. However, the number of vicious beasts was too many, and their attacks were too brutal. Also among them were cunning martial artists who appeared and vanished like ghosts. After Lin Ming sent this spear out, his body was wounded 2 more times. A sword has been thrust straight into his stomach. The wound had damaged his organs. If not for the fact that he had achieved the viscera training stage and true essence had permeated into all his organs at the icy pond, then this sword would have already caused him to lose most of this battle strength. The pressure is too big. Lin Ming's whole body was blooded. There was the enemy's blood, and there was his blood. The dark purple long spear had turned completely crimson, and wet with blood. However, because the spear shaft had undergone a special non-slip treatment, he could still firmly grasp the spear without a greasy feeling. After Lin Ming had just massacred 5 enemies a moment ago, another 5 immediately appeared, one of which was equivalent to the cultivation of the bone-forging stay. This Lin Ming looks increasingly worse. I don't think he will be able to last past the 4th incense stick. Some of the disciples under the stage said. The 4th incense stick was almost burnt through, but on stage, Lin Ming had just coughed. He was obviously injured. In the middle of a group of enemies, he might have been able to persist, but once injured, his battle prowess would drop, and he would not be far from death. He's already missed the expectations, but he still should be able to advance to the top 100 rankings. He's a new disciple after all. It seems 4 incense sticks is his limit. The people talked with less expectation and shock in their words than before. When a man repeatedly creates miracles time and time again, those miracles are soon taken for granted. On the other hand, if he was unable to perform a miracle, even if his result was far superior to others, he might not even receive cheers, but boos instead. For instance, if Ling Sen's legend of being the top-ranked number 1 was broken, then his position in the eyes of others would fall by several degrees. Even if he was still one of the top masters of the 7 profound martial house, his bright halo would already be lost, and people would talk behind his back, saying this Ling Sen isn't that great, and other such nonsense. The incense stick slowly burnt, and when the last weak spark unwillingly turned to ashes, the 5th incense stick was lit. 4 incense sticks had burned out. At this time in the 10,000 killing array, Lin Ming had already taken 12 wounds, 3 of which were wounds to his internal organs. Lin Ming had luckily reached the stage of being able to breathe like a snake, and also had the perfect first layer of the true primal chaos formula supporting him, otherwise he would have already lost all his battle strength. Die. Lin Ming's spear swept out at a martial artist's leg, and then he dived forwards and punched the martial artist's chest. To save true essence, he did not use the overwhelming body-tearing bone-shattering fist. Still, a punch with more than 4,000 jins of might behind it hit the vital part of the martial artist's heart and caused his heart to stop. The martial artist died while violently spasming on the floor. At the same time, there was a humongous roar. A giant illusory phantom appeared in the world of the 10,000 killing array. Lin Ming turned around to look, and 100 feet away stood a bear-like monster that towered more than 10 feet tall. The whole body of this monster was covered in thick black fur, and looking at its massive body, it most likely weighed more than several thousand jins. 3rd-level vicious beast. Lin Ming let loose a gasp. Although this giant black bear was only a weak kind of 3rd-level vicious beast, it was still a 3rd-level vicious beast. That meant it was at least equal to a martial artist that had reached the large success stage of bone forging. With this kind of vicious beast, Lin Ming could do nothing to it at all with his current strength. Not only that, but with this beast appearing, it meant that later on would appear more martial artists and vicious beasts that would at least be this dangerous. Lin Ming knew crystal clear that he didn't have much time remaining. He turned his head again and he saw the Black Knight that he had battled for several rounds. He lifted his spear and rushed towards it. True essence concentrated in the entirety of his body. Lin Ming was like a horse racing ahead at full speed. As he ran, all of the tiny units in his body began to breathe in rhythm. Lin Ming's internal true essence began to rapidly vibrate. Because of the intense vibrations, all of Lin Ming's muscles swelled. He held the spear with an arm that was thicker by several inches, and the blue veins on his arm were bulging. With a ripping sound, the clothes on Lin Ming's body began to tear apart, and all his clothes became tattered and fell off around him. Lin Ming's body was like a shooting star. The black-armored knight lifted his halberd high in the air and cleaved downwards. Facing the cold, dense halberd, Lin Ming did not dodge or evade. He waiting for the split second the halberd came down, and focused true essence into both of his feet. The intense true essence vibrations disintegrated the ground underneath him. With every one of his steps, rocks shattered and came jumping into the air. He had reached the pinnacle of his speed, and then surpassed that. Together with his long spear, he was like a black arrow that flew towards the black-armored knight. Pa! Lin Ming abruptly arrived before the black-armored knight before his halberd had fully come down, and thrusted his spear forward. Flood Dragon goes to sea. The spear from the bottom up pierced the neck of the horse, broke through its armor, and then continued straight through the chest of the black-armored knight. Under the overwhelming vibrations, the black-armored knight's armor was broken like thin paper. The cloud vein wrought iron tip of the long spear had pierced all the way through the black-armored knight's chest. The savagely potent vibrations were sent into the black-armored knight's body, and the knight uncontrollably shook. The knight began to bleed profusely from its head, and then immediately horribly died on the ground. The vibrating true essence had already liquefied all of its internal organs. However, with that last killing strike towards the black-armored knight, Lin Ming had exhausted all of his true essence in a single breath. Even his own muscles could not bear the intensity of the true essence vibration, and he suffered enormous damage to his entire body. It was difficult to even move, as a huge group of vicious beasts rushed at him from all angles. At this point, his battle had ended. On the 10,000 killing array's altar, Lin Ming let out a cough. His face whitened and he was sent out. On the altar, there were still 3 people in the assessment. The strength of the participants for this month's 10,000 killing array inspection was on a much higher level than last month's. Just a bit over 4 incense sticks, a tad better than I thought he would do. What's his ranking? Murongzi said with a smile and a laugh. She turned her eyes over to the ranking stone. Rank 89 GUU is still not finished on the altar. This Lin Ming was eliminated a step earlier than him. His result should be no more than rank 90. This result shouldn't be too far. The people were in a heated discussion, and they began to focus on the changes in the ranking stone. Zhu Yang stood in the middle of these people and turned a deaf ear to their discussions. He was fixated on the ranking stone, and his face was like a gloomy black lake. The scouts sent by the princes also turned their focus to the ranking stone. They had come today for this reason. Some of them had even already prepared the sound-transmitting talisman. Most people were looking at the row that listed ranks 90 through 100. But this time, the 6th row of the ranking stone had a fluctuation. This simple and minor change was destined to be written down in the history of the 7 profound martial house, even in the history of the Sky Fortune Kingdom. Lin Ming, 62. Chapter 89. The Result That Defies Heaven's Will. Chapter 89. The Result That Defies Heaven's Will. 62. My heavens! Under everyone's burning hot gazes, these 2 simple characters of Lin Ming, inserted in the middle of a row of names, was utterly dazzling. 62. In his second assessment, he had soared into the top 72 rankings. The heavenly abode had 72 people altogether. This meant that Lin Ming's strength already sufficed to enter the heavenly abode. 15 years old, entering the 7 profound martial house for 1 month, cultivation of the early 3rd stage of body transformation, and he had the qualifications to enter the heavenly abode. For the last 100 years, 3 martial artists had appeared who had entered into the top 100 during their second round of assessment. But if talking about someone who could enter the heavenly abode during their second assessment, there had never existed anyone like that. All of the disciples present, and the scouts sent by the princes, stared wide-eyed at the ranking stone. Murongzi incredulously covered her mouth in disbelief. The scouts were so shocked, they had forgotten to immediately report the results via their sound-transmitting talismans. This defied the heavens' will. This was an absolutely monstrous genius who surpassed Ling Sen, Ta Ku, and Zhong Guanyu. No, it's impossible. He only managed to pass through 4 incense sticks of time. He should only be past the first 100 rankings. How could his ranking possibly be so high? The heavenly abode martial artists said. Their rankings were in the 70s and above. With Lin Ming rising into the middle of them, that meant there was the possibility that one of them would be squeezed out of the heavenly abode. Was there a mistaking in the 10,000 killing array's ranking stone? How could that be possible? It was an illusory magic array engraved by a Xiantian master. Even a Xiantian master could make a mistake. Some people were unconvinced. No one wanted to be kicked out of the heavenly abode. Shut up, it's impossible for there to be an error in the ranking stone. That Lin Ming could kill his way into the top 72 with only 4 incense sticks of time is because the speed at which he killed his enemies in the 10,000 killing array is much quicker than martial artists at his level. The deacon who was responsible for the 10,000 killing array spoke up. This person was a graduate of the 7 Profound Martial House and had already broken through to the pulse condensation period. In the 7 Profound Martial House, he was not only a deacon but also an instructor. Much quicker than martial artists at his level. Hearing the deacon's judgment, it was as if all the air in the surroundings had been sucked out. In the 10,000 killing array, the enemies overwhelmed to the point of blotting out the sky. Wave after wave of enemies would come, each wave more formidable than the last. The assessment would cause one to not be able to catch their breath. Everyone would try to slow down in order to find an opportunity to restore their true essence. Therefore everyone who entered the 10,000 killing array would kill enemies at the same time, and so their ranking could be judged by how long they took. If Lin Ming slaughtered at such a speed, then without a doubt he would consume his strength faster, and die faster. It was just too abnormal. Murongzi was still covering her mouth, finding herself at a loss for words. It was only after a moment that she turned to Bai Jingyun and said, "Big sister Jingyun, you were right. This Lin Ming is simply a farm animal. I don't know what kind of food he was fed growing up." She was very clear on the significance of this ranking. Beyond the top 62 rankings, there were about a dozen students who were set to graduate at the end of the year. Even if Lin Ming stayed at the same ranking, he could enter the top 50 at the end of the year. He could even leap past the top 50 rankings. But how could Lin Ming stay at the same rankings? He might even enter the top 30 by the end of the year and become her own competition. Bai Jingyun snorted and then smiled. "Little girl, mind your manners. You are just envious of others." "Humph, why would I envy him? I just have to take things a little more seriously, and then we will see if I am surpassed by him." Murongzi raised her small fists. Before now, she had just wanted to play around all the time. Before, at the dream trial during the entrance exam, Murongzi's result was an absolute mess. It was only by taking risk after risk did she cross each hurdle. Damn it. Hurry up and report this to His Highness the Crown Prince faster. Damn me, this result has really turned me into a blind dog. The lead detective under the command of the Crown Prince burst out at his group like an exploding chestnut. Yes, we will immediately send the report." A little guy whose head had been knocked around hurriedly whispered the information, and then lit the sound-transmitting talisman in his hands. Meanwhile, the followers of the 10th Prince also burnt their sound-transmitting talisman. The man who led them looked at the 4 Crown Prince's men in the bamboo grove, an evil smile curving on his face. What a bunch of idiots. They are still making a futile effort to struggle. Time is on our side, His Highness will inevitably win. What kind of trash can the Crown Prince put out? For this Lin Ming, His Highness has already especially prepared a set of human step scriptures and a top-quality treasure. At this time, the Crown Prince Yang Lin was in the Eastern Palace. He was playing chess with his mentor, Mr. Mui. "Haha, what was your Highness thinking? That chess move was wrong." Mui smiled as he moved a piece and took another one. Yang Lin's bottom left side of the board had already become a lost cause. Yang Lin smiled as he shook his head. "Teacher, I have never won playing against you. Whether I lose early or I lose late, the difference is not big. Haha, even if you say that your strength is inferior, you cannot lose your backbone or fighting spirit. Chess is like a battlefield, even if your technique is inferior, someone who dies on the battlefield remains a hero as he was before. But if he surrenders and is captured and then killed, it is only a shame. Teacher's lesson is wise." To Mui, Yang Lin had no superiority as Crown Prince. In the Sky Fortune Kingdom, a middle Hutian stage master was someone that even the emperor had to give 3 points of respect to. More so because the current government and court were turbulent, Mui was the most important person that young Lin relied on. "Tell me, what's on your mind?" Mui asked as he put a pawn down on the board. Young Lin said, "I visited my father, the emperor, today. His body seems to be worse than before." Mui thought silently. He knew that if young Lin was worried about anything, it was the throne change due to the old emperor's deteriorating condition. He did not have too many forces on his side, and now he had to consider the power and strength of the other princes. The 10th prince, the Cloud Prince, was ambitious. He probably would not be willing to stay just a prince. But if comparing the influence in the court, their supporters, and even individual strength, young Lin was far from the Cloud Prince. Once a struggle began, he might not come out as the victor. In the struggles of the throne, once one was defeated, their fate could be imagined. Young Lin was already the crown prince. Even if he didn't want to struggle, he had no choice but to do so. Otherwise, he would lose his life. So these days, young Lin has been heavy-hearted, and had not dared to show his hand. Mui said, "Your Highness, I had just said that chess is like a battlefield. You cannot lose your backbone or your fighting spirit. Your Highness, if you lack confidence, then the subordinates under your control will also be anxious. These subordinates of yours have already resolved to follow your Highness, and have handed over their lives and their families' lives. If your Highness loses, then the Cloud Prince will surely show no mercy, and will thoroughly cleanse the government. When that time comes." Mui did not say it, but in all the ancient changes of the throne, they were often accompanied by massacres and the thick smells of blood and death. At those times, things like affection and friendship would all be nothing but a joke. Chapter 90, Cloud Prince. Chapter 90, Cloud Prince. Mui slowly shook his head. To be fair, young Lin was far too kind. His temperament was not suitable to be the head of state. Although the charming stories from ancient times had told of many benevolent emperors who ruled their counties, that benevolence was only a single facet of their character. For instance, they would show one side to the officials, one side to the common people, and one side to their enemies. They would not be lenient or relent when it came to killing. Those who were too friendly and passive were not suited to be rulers. Young Lin said, "In the current 7 profound martial house ranking war, there appears to be some talent participating in the assessment. I sent Zishan and the others over because I wanted to win him over, but I'm not entertaining any hope. My 10th younger brother has been at the battlefield in all directions for many years. He has captured the aristocrats of many neighboring countries and acquired massive amounts of wealth, jewelry, beautiful women, and cultivation method manuals, especially the rare cultivation manuals. These are particularly tempting to martial artists. I don't think that I can offer anything comparable to what my 10th younger brother can. When the world was at peace, everyone would come to one for advantages, but when the world was in turmoil, one had to go to others for advantages. If a ruler wanted to win over talents, they needed to give corresponding rewards. Therefore, a prince's wealth was also an important standard of their strength. Otherwise, if you could not put out anything valuable, why would anyone die for them? Oh, talent. Who? Mui's heart moved. He already had a faint guess. Lin Ming, 15 years old. This time he might enter the top 100 rankings in the 7 profound martial house. Lin Ming. Mui smiled. Your Highness, please rest assured, Lin Ming will not be won over by the 10th prince. Oh, why do you say this? Little brother Lin and I are friends between generations. Moreover, his background is a bit mysterious. He has a formidable master behind him. He only went to the 7 profound martial house for some exercise and experiences. Even if the Cloud Prince were to put out some good cultivation method, it may not even be seen in Lin Ming's eyes. And also, does Your Highness remember 1 month ago when I asked Your Highness to help rescue a friend? This was at the start of all and was also the same day as the 7 profound martial house entrance exam. He was framed and almost put in prison. What the? Teacher, do you mean to tell me that it was Lin Ming? Young Lin was quick thinking. He immediately understood what Mui wanted to say. Haha, yes, he was Lin Ming. Although I do not have much contact with little brother Lin, But I can tell you that I feel he is a very righteous and good person. Although at that time Your Highness Crown Prince's help wasn't much, Lin Ming should remember this kindness. Although Your Highness might not win him over, he also will not become a subordinate of the Cloud Prince and oppose Your Highness. This is really a pleasant surprise. The Crown Prince lit up with an happy expression. Although the Emperor's body was getting worse every year, but under the care of precious medicines and the physician's martial arts conditioning, it would not be a problem to live 5 or 6 years, or even 7 to 8 years more. Such a long time was already enough for a talent to grow. Although there were quite a few pulse condensation martial artists in the Sky Fortune Kingdom, most of them were gathered at the Seven Profound Martial House. Others were bestowed titles by the government, and were basically in the military. The ones who could be utilized by the princes were less and less, because few people wished to wade into the turbulent waters of the throne change. Once they made a mistake and bet on the wrong horse, they would be beyond redemption. On Yang Lin's side, not calculating Mui, there was only a single pulse condensation martial artist, who was already over 50 years old. But looking at the Seven Profound Martial House, there was Ling Sen, whose cultivation was already at the peak 4th stage of body transformation, and whose true combat strength approached the pulse condensation period. Give him a few years, and he could also reach that stage. This Lin Ming could become the next Ling Sen. Lin Ming was a reputed rare talent at the Seven Profound Martial House that would only appear every few dozen years. If he decided to join a side, the power and influence he would gain would increase a step. Therefore this competition for Lin Ming, although it appeared to be minor, was actually very significant. At this time, a red flame lit up in front of Yang Lin. Pure gold. An urgent sound transmitting talisman. Your Highness, Lin Ming's result is in. His ranking is 62. What? Yang Lin stood up on the spot. 62. As the Crown Prince, he knew what it meant to achieve a ranking of 62 on the second assessment. Even Ling Sen was inferior to this. Ling Sen was already an abnormal existence. With his cultivation of peak 4th stage of body transformation, he was able to approach the strength of the pulse condensation period, and this Lin Ming was even more aberrant. He immediately sent out another sound-transmitting talisman. Although he knew that it was impossible for Zishan and the others to make such a huge mistake, he had to confirm this matter. How is it? The sound-transmitting talisman sends the sound directly to the receiver's mind. Mui had not heard anything. Yang Lin took a deep breath and said, "Teacher, this Lin Ming's result was rank 62. What? 62? Mui was slightly perturbed for a moment but immediately relaxed. Of course, since Lin Ming was the disciple chosen by such a great master, how could he be a small fish in a pond? Ling Sen, Ta Ku, and others like them could be considered talents in the Sky Fortune Kingdom, but if compared to the disciples of the large sects that were taught by the highest masters, they were far worse. Even if Lin Ming was able to reach rank 62 on his first assessment, it would not be an exaggeration. Mui believed that since Lin Ming had an extraordinary master behind him, then he must have a surprisingly good ability. Even if Lin Ming were to defeat Ling Sen in a few more months, Mui at most would be astonished for a brief moment, and then also believe that this was normal. While Yang Lin received the sound-transmitting talisman, the 10th prince also received one. The 10th prince did not care much for Lin Ming's strength, as he had many more masters under him than the Crown Prince did. What he cared about was Lin Ming's influence. Lin Ming was the eye of the storm in the Sky Fortune capital city and a rising star in the martial artist circles. His talent was to the degree that it could only be found every few dozen years in the Seven Profound Martial House. If such a character were to join him, then without a doubt his subordinates' morale would greatly increase. There were even more people who were waiting to see the situation before thinking of joining him. If Lin Ming were to join, it would no doubt be easier. But now, after hearing the news from the sound-transmitting talisman, the 10th prince's complexion immediately changed. To enter the Seven Profound Martial House for only 1 month and for this to only be his second assessment, and also to only have cultivation at the early 3rd stage of body transformation, yet he was still able to reach rank 62 on the ranking stone. This ranking had completely outstripped Ling Sen. The Seven Profound Martial House had never had a record like this for 100 years. For one to be able to advance into the Seven Profound Martial House's heavenly abode with just a peak third stage of body transformation could be considered a talent among talents if they managed to reach around rank 70. But Lin Ming had actually reached rank 62. And his cultivation was a full half-step lower. This was simply a monstrous genius. It was possible that Lin Ming would become a master who far exceeded Ling Sen. Disregarding the considerable influence he would have in pulling other martial artists over to his side, his combat prowess was enough to give the 10th prince a shock. Don't forget, Lin Ming was only 15 years old and his cultivation was at the early third stage of body transformation. There was immense room for improvement. Haha, the heavens help me. As soon as this rare talent that hasn't been seen in 100 years of the Seven Profound Martial House joins me, then the martial artists of Sky Fortune City will hear this and come shaking in their boots to join me. Your Highness, any orders? Prepare 50,000 gold taels immediately, 2 boxes of the finest jewelry, a dozen of the finest outstanding virgin beauties under 16 years of age, 100 servants, and have them wait at Chunyuan Mountain Villa. Also, prepare 500 acres of fertile farmland and the title deed of Chunyuan Mountain Villa. The man heard this and was secretly scared. Such rewards, was he for real? Who was this for? A villa, 50,000 gold taels, and 2 boxes of the finest jewelry were more than enough to win over a general. The 10th prince was positive that he had this. In fact, he also had a secondary reward that gave him the most confidence. It was a set of rare human step manuals that he had looted from an aristocratic family. With this, he had won over many martial artists. Yang Lin, you will lose to me. What you can put out is not even a tenth of what I can. I want to see how you will struggle when you are fully pressured by me. I don't need that old fogey to die. I will make the first move and catch you off guard. Chapter 91, Challenged at Spear Point. Chapter 91, Challenged at Spear Point. At the 10,000 kill array Ashlar Square, Zhu Yang narrowed his eyes towards Lin Ming. Without saying a word, his complexion had returned to normal, but in the glint of those narrow eyes was an icy chill. Lin Ming and Zhu Yang looked at each other with outwards indifference. Their conflict would end in combat sooner or later, but Zhu Yang had not thought that the day would be arriving so quickly. Lan Yunyu was quietly standing in a corner of the sword bamboo grove. She was at a complete loss looking at that incomprehensible number on the ranking stone. She looked at the confrontation between Zhu Yang and Lin Ming and was totally confused. How could things come to this? Many people in the audience were still shocked silly by the result. By now, the deacon responsible for the 10,000 killing array opened his mouth and suddenly said, Lin Ming, congratulations for reaching rank 62 in the 10,000 killing array. According to the regulations of the Martial House, as soon as you enter into the top 80 rankings among the disciples, you have earned the qualifications to challenge any disciple of the heavenly abode. The winner will enter the heavenly abode and the loser will be eliminated and enter the earth hall. The 7 Profound Martial House's heavenly abode had exactly 72 people. These people were there because of their combat prowess, but their strength might not be ordered on the 10,000 killing array rankings. Although the ranking stone rankings judged the basic strength of an individual, sometimes there existed discrepancies. For instance, specific specialties such as an assassin, who do not excel in the forward-rushing fighting style of the 10,000 killing array. But in terms of killing a human, they can often surpass their ranking to defeat someone. Therefore the 7 Profound Martial House regulations stipulated that once one entered the top 80 rankings of the ranking stone, they obtained the qualifications to challenge a disciple of the heavenly abode. Generally speaking, for this challenge, the one most often chosen was the worst ranking person in the heavenly abode. Lin Ming looked at the ranking stone. On the ranking stone, the names of the heavenly abode disciples were slightly larger than those of the earth hall. It was easy to see that the one worst ranked in the heavenly abode was a 17-year-old girl named Bai Rongrong, rank 75. Bai Rongrong just happened to be present during this ranking war. She looked extremely pitiful as she saw Lin Ming turn his eyes on the ranking stone. She knew that she had no chance at all facing him. To reach rank 62 in 4 incense sticks and a breath of time, even if there were 2 of her, she had no fancy dreams she could overcome such a monstrously evil genius. She had to at least symbolically fight him. She just couldn't throw in the towel and admit defeat. She had to fight him honestly and fairly. She could only hope that this abnormal fellow showed some mercy and wasn't too ruthless. Bai Rongrong was self-aware of her own situation. She had already resigned herself to fate. The eyes of many of those present fell on Bai Rongrong. They all expected that this Bai Rongrong would lose. A girl was able to win sympathy from others, especially this Bai Rongrong who was always diligent in her cultivation. If the one who met such a calamity this time was a boy, chances were that most people would have the feeling of taking pleasure in others' misfortune. "Have you decided?" the deacon asked. I've decided." Lin Ming replied. "I have a question though. Are there any restrictions on the time setting of this challenge? The time is decided yourself, but preferably within a month. If your ranking falls out of the top 80, then you also lose the qualifications to challenge." "I see. Thank you, Deacon Senior Apprentice." "You've chosen. I need the name to report to the Heavenly Abode Elder responsible for these matters." I've chosen. The time is in 1 month. As for who?" Lin Ming turned his head. He lifted his spear and pointed it directly at a man who was staring at him with narrowed eyes. "I choose Zhu Yang." Zhu Yang. Everyone who heard this name froze. Especially Bai Rongrong, whose face filled with an incredulous expression of disbelief. The entire Ashlar Square fell into absolute silence. The one this Lin Ming chose was Zhu Yang. Many people at first thought they heard wrong, but looking at who Lin Ming's spear was pointed at, it was clearly directed at Zhu Yang. Provocation. Challenging someone at spear point. This was simply unconcealed provocation. Ranked 32, Zhu Yang. This Lin Ming just wouldn't stop astonishing everyone. This Lin Ming, he's gone insane. Murongzi's lips twitched. She mumbled, "No. I'm the crazy one. If this Lin Ming is crazy, and he does crazy things and creates crazy miracles, then if he is not crazy, I am crazy." Bai Jingyun was also amazed. This Lin Ming was bold. What courage! He was prepared to surpass Zhu Yang in 1 month. From 62 to 32, it had to be known that the ranking was exponentially more difficult the higher one went. From 162 to 132 would not be difficult, but from 62 to 32, the hardship would increase by several times. She had used an entire year to go from 65 to 26. This growth seemed high, but the truth was it was limited. Because this year, 20 disciples who had been in front of Bai Jingyun had graduated from the martial house. So Bai Jingyun had only actually advanced 19 ranks. "This has become interesting," Ta Ku said with a wry smile. "I did not come today in vain. This Lin Ming seems to have a grudge with Zhu Yang. Otherwise, why would he aim so high? Really a horrible relationship. I felt Zhu Yang's body flash a moment ago with murderous intent, but it was instantly hidden. Lin Ming challenged Zhu Yang at spear point. That in itself was also a kind of provocation. Ling Sen said. Although that moment when Zhu Yang had broken out in murderous intention was not obvious, Ling Sen was able to sense it from the many years he had spent on the battlefield. He also had his Ashura martial intent, so he was particularly sensitive to murderous intent. Zhu Yang is a ruthless person. Although he has an aristocratic background, he is actually someone who sinks his entire heart into diligently cultivating. He is very strong, and not only that, but this kind of person has no lack of ambition. In the future he will probably join the government. Even I have kept several points of attention on him. Now this Lin Ming challenged Zhu Yang, I really want to see. Ta Ku licked his lips in excitement. He was a subordinate of the army, and would most likely return in the future. It was better for him not to be involved in these struggles. What would the result be after 1 month? No one dared to guess. If it was before, then they would say that Lin Ming was a fool who had bitten off more than he could chew. But at present, Lin Ming had created miracle after miracle, and no one dared to look down on a single hair of his. What? Lin Ming challenged Zhu Yang? and he challenged him at spear point. Is it possible that he has some enmity with Zhu Yang? In the Eastern Palace, the Crown Prince had just gotten the news that Lin Ming had challenged Zhu Yang. He called out his name and also referred to him by spear point. It really is unusual. Between these two people, there should be some matters. Mui also said. If there really is a grudge, then my chances just increased. This Zhu Yang is a cousin of my 10th brother. Zhu Yang is already joined together with my 10th brother as one. They share glory, and also defeat. I don't know what sort of relationship exists between Lin Ming and Zhu Yang. It seems there are some oversights in my information. For the matters between Lin Ming and Lan Yu knew, except Lin Xiaodong, few others knew. The intelligence that the Crown Prince collected was mainly about Lin Ming's background and parental situation. It wasn't a completely exhaustive report. Peng. The teacup in the Cloud Prince's hand was crushed. He had received the sound-transmitting talisman at the same time the Crown Prince had. Naming Zhu Yang in a challenge, referring to him by spear point, this was definitely not a good sign. If there was no hatred between them, why would Lin Ming jump over so many people to find Zhu Yang? This Zhu Yang, he's really making trouble for me. The 10th Prince's two eyebrows slanted upwards like scimitars and twisted together. Zhu Yang belonged to his mother's side. About relatives from the wife or mother's family, generally speaking, regardless if it were a prince or an emperor, they would exclude most from the mother's side. Since ancient times, it had been far too common for the wife's family or mother's family to take power. For instance, the empress or empress dowager would entrust heavy responsibilities to their family and cause their power to skyrocket. But once their influence inflated, then there would also be conspiracies and plots to control the court. There would be rebellions and plots from the women's side to seize power. But this was a crucial phase for the Cloud Prince in his struggle. Anything that could give him a boost was good. Zhu Yang was a talented person, and the Cloud Prince was willing to let him work as his subordinate, but he would not take Zhu Yang as a trusted follower. Someone like Zhu Yang was simply too ambitious. Pass the order. I want Zhu Yang to come see me tonight. The 10th Prince wanted to inquire about the reason behind the feud between Zhu Yang and Lin Ming, and see whether he could convert Lin Ming from an enemy into a friend. Chapter 92, Declined. Chapter 92, Declined. Who? After Zhu Yang returned to his residence, a ball of flame burst into sparks in front of him. This was a message sent by a sound-transmitting talisman from the 10th Prince, Yang Zhen. The 10th Prince wanted him to come see him tonight at his palace. Zhu Yang could hear his underlying tone. The 10th Prince did not sound happy. Zhu Yang knew for certain that if the 10th Prince wanted to see him, it was because of that moment when Lin Ming had openly challenged him. The scouts he had sent to observe the situation must have reported back to the 10th Prince. Win over Lin Ming? Stop dreaming. Zhu Yang reached out a hand and crushed the smoldering ashes in front of him. The voice of the 10th Prince came to a screeching halt. Zhu Yang slowly rose up and poured himself a glass of wine. He raised the glass and drained the whole thing. Slowly, his eyes became quietly cold, like a placid lake. There is still a month. Do you think that Lin Ming has already won? As Lin Ming returned to his residence, he also received sound-transmitting talismans simultaneously from the 10th Prince and the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince's message was from Mui. From the sound-transmitting talisman, Mui sent his congratulations and invited Lin Ming to the Crown Prince's palace to visit and have a drink. As for the 10th Prince, he also invited Lin Ming over, and also asked if Lin Ming could take a view at a rare human step manual that he had. These two sound-transmitting talismans, in truth, had already violated the regulations of the 7 Profound Martial House. The Martial House had stipulated that any and all outside influences could not disturb disciples in the middle of the school period, even if it was a sound-transmitting talisman sent from the outside. However, the present events were of an important matter with the princes competing for the throne, so naturally the Martial House was able to bend the rules a little to accommodate them. It seems that both sides want to win me over. I have antagonized too many people and made too many enemies. My own strength is weak. I may be safe in the 7 Profound Martial House, but if I go out, I might be assassinated. Although I created a story that I have some formidable master at my back, this kind of fake thing might not necessarily deter others. If I take a side for the time being, then they can also protect me. Mui has been gracious and generous towards me and we are friends, and the Crown Prince helped me one time, so I owe him a favor. If I join them, that would be a good choice. As for the 10th Prince, he is a child of the concubine empress of the Zhou family. Lin Ming didn't care much about politics, but he knew about the Zhou family's situation, and that the 10th Prince was Zhu Yang's cousin. The Zhou family had used this relationship to climb up the ladder. Their influence was growing day by day and rising in the ranks. It was impossible for Lin Ming to take the 10th Prince's side. He immediately declined him. As for giving face to Mui, that was something that he absolutely had to do, but now was not the time. I thank Your Highness the Crown Prince for your great and kind invitation, but I already have a promised date in a month and must seize every second and minute, thus I cannot keep my appointment with you. 1 month later, I will come visit and pay my thanks to your hospitality at that time. In the Eastern Palace of the Crown Prince, Mui received Lin Ming's sound-transmitting talisman. He traced his beard and said with a smile, Lin Ming said that he would come to visit in a month. Oh, this Lin Ming is really so diligent that he doesn't have a free evening? Mui replied, Your Highness must know that the man that cultivates the path of martial arts must be fastidious and keep their thoughts and heart pure. Lin Ming wholeheartedly pursues the martial arts peak. If his heart doesn't have any distracting thoughts, then his growth will also be very fast. If he were to come for a drink even for a night, then there would be some unavoidable disturbances in his mind and it would take perhaps a day or two to adjust back. So that's how it is. No wonder this Lin Ming's cultivation progressed so quickly. His heart of martial arts must make up a large part of the reason. Yes. Normally, if someone's heart of martial arts is weak, when they only have some achievements, they have major powers from far and wide trying to win them over. They are very easily tempted by things like wealth and beauty. This kind of person will always lack great talent, and can only be a follower. However, that Lin Ming's strength improved so quickly is not just due to his pure heart of martial arts, but also because he has a formidable master behind him. Initially, Lin Ming had asked Mui to keep his secret of being an inscription master private, but he had not said anything to Mui about keeping this formidable shadow master of his a secret. In fact, with Lin Ming's current reputation, even if he were to publicize his status as an inscription master, it would not be dangerous. It would even add to the chips in his hand. Not to mention that he had the Crown Prince and Mui's protection now, his status of being a talented disciple of the 7 profound marital house was already an enormous deterrent. Of course, what sort of master is this behind Lin Ming? The Crown Prince asked as his eyes lit up. Mui saw this look of the Crown Prince and clearly knew what thoughts he had. He smiled and said, Your Highness should not expect to count on this person. I guess that this senior is at least at the large success of Xiantian stage. He might have even already surpassed the Xiantian stage. The height of the realms he has reached is already beyond our understanding. He would not meddle in the earthly matters. Surpasses Xiantian. Young Lin's heart shook as he heard this. What sort of realm is above a Xiantian master? Mui forced a wry smile. He said, I do not know the martial arts path beyond that. For those that do not come from an ancient clan or sect, the martial artist who learns by themselves is just like living in a dense fog, they simply do not know where or what to explore. After the Xiantian stage, I am not clear what sort of realm it is. Young Lin let loose a light breath and said, Teacher, please do not belittle yourself. You already have such achievements though you are not from a sect or a clan, you are already a rare talent. I only have one point that is unclear. If this Lin Ming has such a formidable master behind him, why would he go to the 7 profound martial house? Mui said, Well, about this I also have some doubts. To the martial arts path beyond the Xiantian stage, I do not completely understand. Perhaps if one wants to reach the higher boundaries in martial arts, they need to experience for themselves the world and accumulate life experiences, and that is why Lin Ming then came to Sky Fortune City. Whether or not I can win over Lin Ming, I must at least become friends with him. Next month when Lin Ming comes, I will personally greet him and give him a proper banquet. This Lin Ming, he actually rejected me. At the Cloud Prince's palace, The 10th Prince Yang Zhan received the sound-transmitting talisman that Lin Ming had replied with, and his face immediately sank. Zhu Yang, you really did a good deed. For a mere woman you have offended such a powerful enemy, you have really disappointed me. Zhu stood in front, silent and without words. Originally, when he had succeeded in snatching and obtaining Lan Yunyu, Lin Ming had only been a little unimportant guy, nothing more than a bug beneath his heel. No matter what happened, he could easily deal with him. To take a woman from such an useless person, what could go wrong? Who could possibly expect that Lin Ming would grow so quickly into such a powerful enemy? Of course, he did not explain these matters, nor did he need to. Yang Zhan had asked him here today to let loose his volatile temper. Zhu Yang was very clear, his current status and his Zhu family's status was all because of the 10th prince. The 10th prince was his master, and in front of him, he could not revolt. I borrowed your Zhu family's strength because I thought you could assist me in dealing with my hurdle, but now you have only added to the chaos. I had the absolute confidence to win over Lin Ming, but now, Zhu Yang, you followed me because you wanted to do great things and have great accomplishment. Only the stupidest, the absolute stupidest people would kill the world for just a woman. That Lan Yunyu, you will divorce her. As the 10th prince said this, Zhu Yang's brow slightly wrinkled. He said, Your Highness, even if I divorce Lan Yunyu, it is impossible for me to ease my relationship with Lin Ming. Do you believe that Lin Ming will forgive this betrayal and join together with Lan Yunyu again? This battle of mine and Lin Ming's was because of Lan Yunyu, but now, it already has nothing to do with Lan Yunyu any longer. I do not need you to preach to me. I already know that Lin Ming will not want Lan Yunyu again. But, if you divorce her, it will be a sign of showing weakness and humbling yourself before Lin Ming. Afterwards you can apologize. Only like this can we possibly sit down and discuss the future together. Only like this will I have the possibility to offer him generous conditions and bring him to my side. No longer an eternal enemy, only eternal benefits. I will choose for him beauties that far outstrip Lan Yunyu, heavenly beauties who are as obedient as a cat. I will give him great wealth and top cultivation methods. How could he not side with me? What the crown prince can give him is nothing compared to what I can. You want me to show weakness and humble myself before Lin Ming? Zhu Yang's mouth twitched and his fists clenched together until they were white. For someone like him who had an arrogant personality, to show weakness and humble himself, it was worse than killing him. Chapter 93, Obstacle. Chapter 93, Obstacle. What, you aren't willing? A real man is resilient and can adapt to the situation. What is this matter of showing a little weakness? Could it be that you want to create problems for me, just because you and Lin Ming are complete enemies? Zhu Yang took a few deep breaths and then slowly relaxed his clenched fists. His eyes were cold as he slowly said, Your Highness. A dead genius is no longer a genius. Humph. You want me to assassinate Lin Ming? Zhu Yang, do you not know what sort of unparalleled existence the 7 profound martial house is in the Sky Fortune Kingdom? Lin Ming is a rare talent that hasn't been seen in 100 years of the 7 profound martial house. I can't believe that you wish for me to assassinate him. Even if he left the martial house, even if he hasn't grown, do not forget my elder brother, the crown prince Yang Lin. Although Yang Lin is stupid, he is not stupid to the point of being retarded. How could he not send protection for Lin Ming? His side also has a master, he even has Mui. Once I make a minor miscalculation, once just a little bit of my plans are exposed to Yang Lin that I have killed Lin Ming, then I have loss. Let alone when the time comes to take the throne, I won't even be able to preserve my life. The authority of the 7 profound martial house is inviolable. Even if it is my father the emperor, he would also be useless to do anything. Just one Mui is enough to give me a headache. I have spent many resources to raise 18 people into the court that are willing to die, and this is just to barely deal with Mui. If this Lin Ming grows up and is added to this already complicated situation, then my chances will be significantly reduced. Zhu Yang's mouth twitched and both of his fists felt heavy. He spoke slowly and clearly, Your Highness, please give me some time. I will give you an adequate response. Fine. I will believe you this one time. But what if you disappoint me once again? Zhu Yang took a deep breath and bit out the words, if I am defeated, if Lin Ming can still grow with such a monstrously evil speed, then I will divorce Lan Yunyu and apologize to Lin Ming. Humph. I hope it will not be too late at that time. Drawback. In a guest room at the Great Clarity Pavilion, the ambience was brilliant, and the prepared dishes were delicious, but Zhu Yang did not have the mind to eat the dishes as he stewed in his thoughts. Seeing Zhu Yang not eating, Lan Yunyu hadn't dared to move her chopsticks. She had correctly guessed that Zhu Yang's worry today was related to Lin Ming's challenge. She was caught in the middle, embarrassed, and did not dare to even say a few words. Today, the 10th prince called me in to discuss some matters with me. Zhu Yang slowly said after being silent for a long time. Discuss? What did you talk about? Lan Yunyu felt a faint sense of unease. She had never known what Zhu Yang was thinking. She could only feel his dark and terrible mood, as if there was this gently roiling calm, just before he would explode with sudden violent rage and run amok. His look was just like a vicious beast lying in ambush. At first it seemed tranquil and calm, but it was actually containing an inexhaustible murderous intent. When she was together with Zhu Yang, Lan Yunyu had always felt an invisible pressure pushing down on her as if she couldn't breathe. It was unlike the past, during the time when she and Lin Ming had been together. When she was with Lin Ming, she could randomly act like a spoiled brat, or randomly lose her temper, but that boy would always smile at her like sunshine and satisfy all of her unreasonable demands. Unfortunately, those days were long gone and would never return. Lan Yunyu sighed in her heart. She did not dare to show any feelings, because she always felt as if Zhu Yang's eyes were like an eagle that seemed able to completely penetrate into her innermost feelings. He told me to, Zhu Yang said, and then looked at her with both eyes and slowly continued, he told me to divorce you. In that moment, Lan Yunyu became senseless. It was as if time had slowed down in that instant, and Zhu Yang's face suddenly seemed far off in the distance. All her senses, her hearing, her touch, all of it became blurred. Although she had always maintained the purity of her body, she had already become engaged to Zhu Yang. In the Sky Fortune Kingdom, if a girl was divorced after being engaged, this was an extremely shameful matter, and their remarriage would be affected. If Zhu Yang really divorced her, what course was left for her to follow? She looked at Zhu Yang with a twisted expression and clenched her lips, trying not to cry. Still, tears began to flow from her eyes. She knew what significance the 10th prince meant to Zhu Yang and the Zhu family. His words held much weight to Zhu Yang. You have agreed. Lan Yunyu choked on her words, almost sobbing. Not yet. Zhu Yang replied truthfully. Why? Lan Yunyu subconsciously held the chopsticks in her hand, but her knuckles had turned white. Because of Lin Ming. The 10th prince wishes to win over Lin Ming, but you have become an obstacle for him to win over Lin Ming. Obstacle. Lan Yunyu could finally not bear the pain, and the tears she was holding back began to tumble down like rain. She was just an ordinary girl. How was it that one day she would be involved in the struggles of the throne, and become an obstacle to the prince? Why was this happening? Zhu Yang said, I have 1 month, maybe 2. But I still don't know if there might be a chance. You don't need to despair. This matter isn't necessarily a foregone conclusion. After saying these words, Zhu Yang simply rose up, pushed open the door and left. Lan Yunyu was left behind, sitting in her chair. She looked as if her soul had been lost. She knew her situation. Although Zhu Yang had said there was an opportunity, she was not naive enough to believe this. If she ever became an obstacle in his path, even if just a little, he would not hesitate to get rid of her. Thinking of this, Lan Yunyu felt a surge of inexplicable sorrow. She absent-mindedly rose, opened the door and left. The main hall of the Great Clarity Pavilion always resounded with boisterous noise and chatter. A crowd of aristocratic sons indulged in their desires and were having fun, raising goblets to drink from. The delicate bronze goblets were covered with a lifelike design, as if it were the mouth of a monster that was opening its jaws wide to swallow her. Luxurious halls, velvet rugs, the gentle sounds of lofty strings and wind instruments, fine jade plates and golden bowls filled with the best delicacies. She had once longed for these in her dreams and pursued them, but now they only made her feel desolate. She walked down the staircase and out of the great Clarity Pavilion. The autumn night had a breezy coolness to it, and the blowing wind had a touch of dew. It was somber and wistful. The truth was, Zhu Yang was not wrong. Lan Yunyu understood the reason he said those few words tonight, and did not feel any resentment towards him. She had chosen Zhu Yang. She chose him because Zhu Yang brought to her great wealth, and thus a longer youth. If one day Zhu Yang lost his status to women, then even his wife might leave him. This truth, how could Zhu Yang not understand? If one chooses splendor, then they have to be able to withstand the bitterness and pain behind that splendor. But she understood this principle too late. She suddenly realized how precious those missing things were that she once had. She regretted, not because Lin Ming had metamorphosed into a golden-scaled dragon, but her regret was not knowing that the happiness she had once felt was a true blessing. The result that Lin Ming had created had shocked many people. The major powers had already set plans into action for Lin Ming. But even though Lin Ming had achieved such a great result, he had not even the slightest bit of complacency. He chose 1 month of time before challenging Zhu Yang. The truth was, he did not have the absolute assurance that he would win. Zhu Yang was the first decent enemy in Lin Ming's entire life. Once, Lin Minute had set surpassing Zhu Yang as a lifetime goal. But now, in only a short period of 6 months, Lin Ming would be facing off against Zhu Yang on the same martial stage. Lin Ming could feel that Zhu Yang was tough and extraordinary. Zhu Yang and Wang Yangfeng were the same. Both were proud and had their own unyielding will. It was just that Zhu Yang was not so hard-edged like Wang Yangfeng, and was more restrained at heart. If Wang Yangfeng was an unsheathed treasure sword overflowing with cold air, then Zhu Yang was a slender saber hidden in the sheath. It was difficult to tell when he would leave the sheath, and that first strike would be virtually impossible to guard against. Zhu Yang would not be so easily crushed. He was the son of a concubine of the Zhu family. He relied on his own strength and diligent efforts to crawl up, step by step, to his current position. He even had the possibility of inheriting the Zhu family as the head of the household. Such a person was like strong grass and just as tenacious. Even if Lin Ming had the crimson gold dragon marrow pill that was enhanced by the medicinal inscription symbol, he didn't have full confidence that he would win. This month, Zhu Yang would definitely put in double the effort. But even knowing this, Lin Ming had still issued a challenge. Not only did he have to challenge Zhu Yang, he had to challenge himself, and force himself into a corner to stimulate his potential. This month, the resources that Lin Ming would obtain were increased. He would be able to practice for 5 full days at the 7 major killing arrays, receive 5 soul-gathering pellets, and also 5 true essence stones. The soul-gathering pellets were nothing, but the true essence stones, in particular the 5 full days of cultivation time, were crucial for Lin Ming. 5 full days was equal to 60 hours he could practice. That was an average of 2 hours every day for a month. Although it wasn't indiscriminate practice, but the effects of 2 hours were already very rewarding. This early morning, Lin Ming carried the penetrating rainbow and went to the icy pond waterfall. But just as he was about to enter the cold pond, a distant voice called out to him. "Young cousin, wait a moment." Millimeter. Lin Ming paused his footsteps. It was Lin Wu. "Young cousin, congratulations. This time you have really gained face for our Lin family," Lin Wu cheerfully said as he ran over. The Lin family was one of the biggest families in Green Mulberry City, but at present it did not have the means to compare with the Zhu family. This was because the Zhu family had a concubine empress, and moreover the empress's son was awarded the title of prince. This was not too bad, one could only blame fate. However, most of the Lin family elders seethed with rage. The Lin family was always pressured by the Zhu family and Zhu Yang. They were like a mountain that stood in front of the Lin family. The strongest of the young generation in the Lin family was Lin Wu. He had already spent 2 years in the 7 profound martial house and had just barely entered the Earth Hall. Also, he was only in the lower middle section of rankings. The other 2 of the younger generation had not even entered the Earth Hall. They could not catch up to even half of Zhu Yang. How could the Lin family elders not be annoyed? But yesterday, 12 long-range sound-transmitting talismans had been used, and the great news had been sent a great distance that night to Green Mulberry City. The common sound-transmitting talisman could only reach several dozen miles in range, but the long-distance sound-transmitting talisman could spread to several hundred miles. The price was of course far higher than ordinary. One slip cost several dozen taels of gold. To pass news from the Sky Fortune City to the Green Mulberry City required 12 sound-transmitting talismans being sent in series. The cost to send this news was several hundred gold taels. If it were not important, then even a rich or respected family like the Lin family would not be so wasteful. 12 sound transmissions were sent in succession, with an urgent pure gold color. They only had a few simple sentences. Lin Ming has been at the 7 Profound Martial House for 34 days. During the second 10,000 killing array assessment, he reached rank 62 and obtained the qualifications to challenge the heavenly abode. He challenged Zhu Yang at spear point, and declared that their match would be 1 month later. It is said that when the head of the Lin family received this sound-transmitting talisman, he jumped up from his chair on the spot and even used dirty words. "This is fucking great." Chapter title is a spoiler. Highlight it to read it now, or see it at the bottom. Chapter title is a spoiler. Highlight it to read it now, or see it at the bottom. Chapter 94. Martial intent reappears. Of course this was great. Their Lin family had always been pressured by the Zhu family, and even the younger generation was being pressured by Zhu Yang. Now Lin Ming was able to mercilessly get justice for them, and even challenge Zhu Yang at spear point. To overturn this mountain that had always been suppressing the younger generation of the Lin family, how could he not be feeling great? There that night, 12 more long-range sound-transmitting talismans were used in succession to return news to the Sky Fortune City Lin family branch. The instructions the Lin family head gave were, "Do not hesitate to use all supplies available to support Lin Ming. We must create the best and most ideal conditions for Lin Ming, so that he can defeat Zhu Yang 1 month from now." So today, because of the instructions from the head of the Lin family branch sent Lin Wu to bring Lin Ming resources to support him. This is, Lin Ming looked at a small porcelain bottle and a small jade box in Lin Wu's hand. The head of the Lin family sent an urgent message through 12 long-range sound-transmitting talismans to the family branch. He wants you to train well, and try your hardest to defeat Zhu Yang a month from now. Lin Ming took the porcelain bottle and the jade box. He opened the porcelain bottle. Inside were 10 pills. They were lustrous and round, with a delicate and gentle fragrance. As soon as one saw these, it was easy to tell they were superior medicines. High-level soul-gathering pellet. The main ingredient of an ordinary soul-gathering pellet was a 100-year-old yuan fruit. Its value was no less than a 100-year-old bloodlingji. But a high-level soul-gathering pellet was made from a 300-year-old yuan fruit. Its value was at least 7 times more than an ordinary soul-gathering pellet. Moreover, it was not easy to buy. A soul-gathering pellet could not directly increase a martial artist's strength, but it could enhance a martial artist's ability to condense true essence and thus increase their cultivation speed. Although these types of pills' effects of increasing strength were slow, they did not have any side effects, and one could take them constantly. Because of this, of all the pills that martial artists had, the consumption of soul-gathering pellet was the highest. This bottle that the Lin family gave of high-level soul-gathering pellets was worth nearly 20,000 gold taels. The family had really used all their resources. Lin Ming looked at Lin Wu and then opened the jade box. After opening it, he saw neatly placed inside were 2 layers of crystal-clear stones that looked as if they were carved from ice. True essence stones. Lin Ming could see with one sweep of his eyes that this box held 30 true essence stones. 30 true essence stones was not a small number, and these true essence stones were glittering as if they were carved from translucent glass. If compared to those given by the 7 Profound Martial House, they were somewhat purer. These true essence stones, their value was also not low. Seeing this bottle of soul-gathering pellets and this box of true essence stones, Lin Ming understood that if he received this great gift, it was equivalent to his tacit approval, and that he was willing to become a direct descendant of the Lin family. Lin Wu realized that Lin Ming's look had changed, and he faintly guessed in his mind what he was deliberating. He said with some embarrassment and a hint of apology, "Young cousin, I know that this icing on the cake is not of a timely nature to truly help. I know that when you first came down to Sky Fortune City, not even a shadow of the family was here to help or assist you. Now that young cousin has become a dragon among men, the family only then delivers medicine and true essence stones. It really does not honor you or do you justice, but there is also a reason we do the things we do. The family's resources are limited, there are just too many children of the Lin family. If each generation equally divided the family property, then the Lin family would have already disappeared." Lin Ming understood what Lin Wu meant. Lin Ming's own great-grandmother was the matriarch of the family office, Madame Fang. This relation was passed down to Lin Ming. The children of a large family tended to have many wives, and thus they flourished. The number of heirs and descendants exponentially increased with each new generation. The property had to be concentrated together in order to ensure that the family traditions could continue. The family gave some businesses to the branch family juniors to manage, and to let these distant families earn a salary. This was already a kindness to the branch families. In fact, this was very generous. If it wasn't for Lin Ming practicing martial arts, his family's life could also be very wealthy. To the Lin family with which he shared the last name, Lin Ming felt a little thanks, but he did not have any real sense of belonging to them. But Lin Ming knew that his parents had very traditional and serious mindsets, and they had always dreamed that one day they could return to the main family. In his parents' eyes, recognizing their ancestors and returning to the main family was the orthodox. This was because his parents' status in the family would rise, and they would even receive the respect and veneration of the family head. To the parents, this was a glory, and this glory would be brought because of him. Which parents did not hope for their children to have great accomplishments in the future, and return home with riches and honor? Lin Ming was a rare talent that had never been seen in the last 100 years of the Seven Profound Martial House. His rising star was enough to bring honor to his ancestors, and to give shade to his descendants. Thinking this, Lin Ming accepted the pills and true essences stones, and said to Lin Wu, "Thank the family head for me. Young cousin is too humble." The Lin family thanks young cousin, and we hope you win for us. Seeing Lin Ming accept these gifts, Lin Wu relaxed and let loose a deep breath. He also had feared that Lin Ming had a cold and lonely heart towards the Lin family. It was only a few more months until the end of the year. Lin Ming was already calculating in his mind. There was a vacation period at the end of the Seven Profound Martial House school year. The Martial House disciples usually went home to celebrate the new year. He himself had to take advantage of this opportunity to visit his parents. His father and mother had worked hard enough for a lifetime, they deserved an easy and comfortable retirement in old age. Bidding Lin Wu farewell, Lin Ming took the pills and the true essence stones with him, and carried Penetrating Rainbow to the Icy Pond waterfall once more. Junior Apprentice Lin. As soon as the Deacon Senior Apprentice responsible for the Icy Pond waterfall saw Lin Ming, his whole face had lit up with a welcoming smile. Junior Apprentice Lin is truly basking in the limelight. But, it is just too wonderful. Ranking stone rank 62, terrific, and certainly unprecedented. Lin Ming smiled and didn't respond. These last 2 days he had heard far too much similar flattery. What difficulty does Junior Apprentice Lin want? 9 levels. The highest difficulty in the Icy Pond waterfall array was the 12th level. The deeper one went, the higher the level one went, the more difficult the array would be. The only person capable of just barely withstanding the 12th level of difficulty was Ling Senator. Even he could only last for an incense stick of time, and then he too had to surface and meditate. Therefore Ling Sen only practiced at the 11th level of difficulty. In 1 month, Lin Ming had jumped 2 levels of difficulty, and gone from the 7th level to the 9th level. This was a truly unbelievable matter, but Lin Ming's ranking spoke louder than words. "Okay." The Deacon Senior Apprentice said without hesitation, and immediately opened the 9th level of difficulty. Lin Ming swallowed a high-level soul-gathering pellet to help him increase his cultivation speed, and then he carried the Penetrating Rainbow with him as he dove into the Icy Pond. As soon as he entered the Icy Pond, Lin Ming felt once more a bone-chilling cold that was like tiny ice needles piercing him from all directions. The difficulty had kicked up a notch. Of the 7 profound Marshall House's resources, the soul-gathering pellets and true essences stones couldn't be considered true treasures. Only these 7 major killing arrays could be considered such. Each second and each minute was incomparably precious. He could not even waste a smidgen of time. He only had 2 hours of time. Lin Ming stood on the big rock underneath the waterfall. He kept penetrating rainbow even and steady. In the 9th level of difficulty, the waterfall's pulsing impact had increased tremendously. When Lin Ming had gripped his 8-foot 8-inch spear underneath the waterfall, he immediately felt the huge impact force of the waterfall, as if at any moment his arm would break under the weight. Underneath the effects of the waterfall array, it was not easy to stand, and the water was also freezing cold. The unending flowing water constantly slicked off of the body's heat. Adding an 820 jin spear that he kept horizontally underneath the waterfall, even with his own thick true essence and amazing strength, he could only support this consumption for a blink of an eye. Even if it was Lin Ming, he had to absorb the true essence in a true essence stone to support himself. Millimeter. The absorption speed of true essence went up by 50%. Lin Ming was startled, but he immediately understood. This was the effect of the high-level soul-gathering pellet. An 1800 gold tael high-level soul-gathering pellet, eating one was a true treasure. The effects of this kind of luxurious and amazing pill were especially good. By relying on the true essence stone and the high-level soul-gathering pill that was difficult to buy no matter how wealthy one was, Lin Ming was unexpectedly able to persist in this extremely violent situation. Originally, Lin Ming had thought he could hold his breath for 3/4 of an hour at most, but now, even though his true essence was depleted, he could still rely on the high-level soul-gathering pellet and true essence stone to supplement his body and barely continue. Although Lin Ming felt that the pain was difficult to endure, he was still standing. The advantages were immense in maintaining this condition. Not only did it rapidly enhance his spear skills, but it also tempered his body with true essence, and increased the synchronization of the tiny units in his body. Each point of his muscles and organs independently absorbed true essence. His body continually resisted against the severe cold. When a common martial artist practiced martial arts, it was inevitable that their body would have a spot that they did not cultivate. But when every inch of the body was independently absorbing true essence, then this situation would not occur. Lin Ming's one breath had already lasted for half an hour. Because of the biting ice-cold chill, Lin Ming's body temperature had already dropped to an acutely low degree. An average man would have already died, but a martial artist relied on the protection of their true essence to maintain their blood flow. Because of the long time he had been under this condition, Lin Ming's consciousness began to fade away from his body. Slowly, the thunderous sounds of the waterfall began to fade away and vanish into nothing. Lin Ming's mind entered a completely quiet and tranquil time and space. Here, it was as if he could clearly feel the flow and sound of each impact, and he could hear his own slow heartbeat as if it were frozen. This heartbeat beat with a rhythm of a booming drum. At that moment, Lin Ming felt his soul leave his body once more. In his body, he once more felt that elusive state that he had been in before. Because he was unable to consciously control his body, the true essence in his body moved in accordance of its instincts. This sort of circulation route, compared to when Lin Ming was controlling his true essence himself, was far more perfect. Lin Ming didn't know, but this state was the rudimentary form of martial intent. Chapter 94, Martial Intent Reappears. Chapter 95, The Effect of a Heart of Martial Arts. Chapter 95, The Effect of a Heart of Martial Arts. Lin Ming didn't know, but this state was the rudimentary form of martial intent. The last time that Lin Ming had entered into this mysterious cultivation state, he had reached the perfect first layer of the true primal chaos formula. Afterwards, Lin Ming had not been able to enter this cultivation state again. But this time, relying on the effects of the high-level soul-gathering pellet and true essence stone combining together, and having stayed in Icy Pond Waterfall's 9th level of difficulty for a long time so that his consciousness expanded, Lin Ming had once again entered this rudimentary form of martial intent. Although Lin Ming's martial intent was imperfect and it wasn't so exaggerated as the sudden enlightenment described in the ancient texts, but it was still able to bring great benefits to Lin Ming. Under this kind of martial intent, his cultivation and level were rapidly rising. Martial intent itself was an evasive state. It had nothing to do with one's own intelligence or qualifications, it was only about one's own conscious will. Lin Ming had an incredible and rare heart of martial arts. By virtue of this, he was able to slowly trace the opening method of martial intent. Like this, 2 hours passed. The time of Lin Ming's appointment was up. Xiedong saw that Lin Ming still hadn't exited by the time his appointment was up, so he entered the array in order to remind him. As he entered the array, he only found Lin Ming was sitting quietly under the waterfall with both eyes shut tight. His breath was long, almost stagnant. He was motionless like the dead. As soon as he saw this, Xiedong's eyes jumped. He had spent many years at the Seven Profound Martial House, and had read a great number of ancient texts that covered a broad variety of topics. He knew that Lin Ming should currently be cultivating martial arts to an extreme degree. In that case, if he cultivated martial arts under these circumstances, his growth would be exponential. No, something's wrong. Even if he cultivated martial arts so fervently, his breath shouldn't almost be stalled. This is definitely not normal. Junior apprentice brother Lin's situation is, Xiedong's eyes were sharp. If he didn't see the thick and rich true essence that emanated from Lin Ming's body, he would have thought that Lin Ming had frozen to death. Is this martial intent? Xiedong suddenly remembered the records about martial intent in the ancient texts. In the legends, certain individuals were able to enter into their own state of cultivation called martial intent. When they cultivated in this state, they could progress 10,000 miles in a day. Ling Sen had comprehended a martial intent. The kind of person that could, usually had a heart of martial arts that vastly outstripped that of a normal man's. Thinking of this, Xiedong was suddenly enlightened. No wonder Lin Ming's strength had progressed so rapidly. Lin Ming had his own martial intent. This was extraordinary. It had to be known that those who had comprehended a martial intent generally had a supreme heart of martial arts, but it wasn't guaranteed that someone with a supreme heart of martial arts could comprehend a martial intent. To comprehend martial intent, one must have the greatest luck. It must come to them, they cannot seek it. At this moment, another disciple had arrived outside of the icy pond waterfall. Thank you, senior apprentice brother. If the array is vacant, please trouble to help me open up the 7th level of difficulty. Hehe. My condition recently has been very good and I've made much progress. Today, I think I want to challenge a higher difficulty. This, even though he was responsible for the icy pond waterfall, Xiedong was a bit reluctant. Junior apprentice brother Sun, the array has not yet been vacated. Millimeter? Sun Xing slightly frowned. Time in the 7 major killing arrays was precious. An appointment was always exact. Not a minute or a second could be missed, otherwise people would suffer a major loss. Xiedong's prime task was to remind disciples so that they came out earlier. Senior apprentice brother, this is a bit too excessive. What am I going to do if I lose time? Who is inside? Sun Xing asked with some dissatisfaction. It was obvious that this Xiedong favored the opposite party, but he didn't want to show a bad side to him. Xiedong was responsible for the icy pond waterfall. If he offended Xiedong, then he might have trouble in the future. This, inside, is junior apprentice brother Lin Ming. Xiedong said. Lin Ming. Sun Xing suddenly stared with eyes wide open, and he gulped. Lin Ming's name had spread through the entire Sky Fortune City like a heavenly thunderclap that reverberating in everyone's ears in the 7 Profound Martial House. He was even more famous than Ling Sen, Ta Ku, and the others. If he could really defeat Xu Yang in 1 month, then he would be the most abnormally monstrous genius that the 7 Profound Martial House had ever seen in the past 100 years. Who would even dare to think about provoking this kind of person? Sun Xing hurried to hide his discontent. So it was junior apprentice brother Lin. Haha, if I may ask the senior apprentice brother, when will he come out? Although he was no longer angry, he was still inevitably anxious. Xiedong said, I'm not clear about this. Junior apprentice brother Lin has probably entered into some strange cultivation state. Well, today I am very sorry for junior apprentice brother Sunday. How about when junior apprentice brother Lin comes out, I have him recompense you for your time? Xiedong did not mention the matter of martial intent. After all, he was not assured of his judgment. Sun Xing nodded in agreement. Most people would be unwilling to abruptly change their appointment time, but since the person who was taking his time was Lin Ming, that was another matter. Sun Xing thought for a moment and then said, since junior apprentice brother Lin is so ardently cultivating his martial arts, I should lend him my time. If senior apprentice brother could remember to mention my name later, that would be wonderful. Sun Xing wanted to curry some favor with Lin Ming. To let Lin Ming borrow some practice time could only be regarded as a small favor. Naturally. Xiedong said. He certainly understood Sun Xing's thoughts. In this way, Lin Ming continued cultivating in that special state. That one breath had been extended to 4 hours. As he suddenly woke from that mysterious cultivation state, Lin Ming was surprised. How long had he been cultivating for? As he exited the icy pond waterfall, the sun was already high in the western sky. Was this the afternoon? At least 3 or 4 hours must have passed. Junior apprentice brother Lin, you've finally come out. Xiedong hurried to greet him. I saw a while ago that junior apprentice brother Lin was in a deep cultivation state, so I did not call you. I didn't expect you to stay for 3.5 hours. 3.5 hours? Then I passed my appointment time. Yes, I kept everyone back, but later junior apprentice brother Lin has to repay the time. Like that? I see. I really must thank senior apprentice brother for helping me out. Lin Ming didn't think that there would be a day where he would be given such preferential treatment. He sighed with emotion. In the 7 profound martial house, strength was everything. If you had strength, you had privilege. If you were weak, then everyone would step on you underneath their foot. It's just a minor matter, it's not worth mentioning. Junior apprentice brother Lin, it appears that a moment ago you entered some peculiar state. I realized that junior apprentice brother Lin's breath had almost stopped. Millimeter? Did it? I did not have much of a feeling of anything. Lin Ming did not have a complete understanding of that ethereal state he had been in a moment ago. He only knew that the cultivation state he was in had been of great benefit to his own cultivation. Xiedong hesitated for a bit before he said, Junior apprentice brother Lin, if senior apprentice brother did not guess wrong, then that strange state you were in might possibly be a kind of martial intent. Martial intent? Lin Ming was slightly stunned. This was the first time he had heard of such a concept. Millimeter, martial intent. I am not very clear on this matter, but I know that there are very few martial artists who have martial intent. To comprehend it all depends on chance and opportunity. A martial artist with a strong heart of martial arts has a higher probability of comprehending it. Junior apprentice brother Lin has a truly unwavering and incomparably pure heart of martial arts. Not even junior apprentice brother Ling can compare with you. You must know that junior apprentice brother Ling has also comprehended his own martial intent, and that is why he is so fierce. Millimeter. Ling Sen can also enter this sort of cultivation state. Lin Ming was surprised, but then he immediately became aware. No wonder. Although Ling Sen's talent was only an inferior 4th grade, he had been the number 1 rank on the 7 profound martial houses ranking stone for a long time. Even the 5th grade talent Zhong Guanyu was steadily suppressed by him. Lin Ming knew that having a strong heart of martial arts was good for cultivation, but Lin Ming hadn't known that besides letting a person be more diligent and persistent in their training, it also had other substantial advantages. If it was solely allowing a person to work harder, then it seemed a bit lackluster and useless. The time of a day was limited. Even if you cultivated as you ate, how much more time would you have over others? Now he knew a bit more. A strong heart of martial arts would let one be able to comprehend martial intent. With this ability, one could greatly improve. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.